We are live.
Okay.
Michala Pelren back in the saddle. So we were talking. Do you want to just dive right into the Rittenhouse thing? Because now I'm pumped. I'm interested to hear your take on it.
For sure. Like I was saying beforehand, I haven't delved far into it as I definitely could have, or probably should have, in order to have an opinion. But I have one anyway. To be frank, I think that was absolute bull. And I don't think that it should have been not guilty on everything.
You think he should have been guilty
Yes.
on all the charges?
At least so two, because wasn't it was 2 deaths and then 1 assault, correct?
Yeah, one guy lived, one guy was injured,
Okay. So
and two were killed.
I think that, and like I said, I haven't delved that far into it. I did watch parts of his testimony and watch the verdict as it came out. And was texting my friend, and we were like, "What the fuck?
What is happening?"
And just kind of like, we both kind of just were like, I'm sad for a little while, for just, and then you got to move on, unfortunately. But I don't know, I know that there are sides of the defense that I didn't listen to and that I don't know about, and I don't know the whole story, but just based off of the media coverage that I've seen kind of from both sides, I don't know how you can walk around with whatever kind of gun it was and just kill people and not have any repercussions of like any kind.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that were like, he got away with murder.
Yeah.
And they feel very strongly about that.
And so, and again, like I said, I'm sure, and there's been things in the past where, because me and my partner, we have similar views on things, but he loves to be devil's advocate, even when it pisses me off. When I'm like, okay, but like, just agree with me for right now. Like, that's what I need.
You to back me up.
I just need your support right now. And he's like, well, it doesn't really make sense. You're not coming from a logical place. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need this. So there's been plenty of things where I've come in hot and heavy on a certain thing, and I'm like, that is not okay, that's fucked up, da 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 da. And then he's like, okay, well, I've read this and that, because he's a big Reddit guy. Okay. So that's where he gets like all of his news. Reddit
goes deep.
Yes, it does. And so he's like, I can't think of specific examples, but like for certain stuff, I'm like, that's not okay, that was terrible, what a bad call, whatever. And then he's like, well, if you think about it, we have all these other factors. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that makes more sense. I'm still usually kind of like upset about it, but it makes more sense, like the reasoning behind a verdict or some sort of assault or whatever. So I haven't talked with him about that just yet, because I don't really want to get into it. Yeah. Because it makes me upset, and I'm sure that there are people that I follow on social media and stuff that have posted like the counter aspect of it, of like that he shouldn't have been, or that he rightfully was not guilty. The problem that I have with it is everybody can have their own opinion on what you think is right and wrong in the justice system, and I think the justice system is flawed in many ways, and on both sides. If he was guilty, people would say, the justice system fucked up, and the fact that he's not guilty, people are saying, so you're not going to make everybody happy, of course. But I think what I have issue with is that he's being painted as like
a hero,
an American hero, an American like patriot, like we should all be like Kyle Rittenhouse. No, no, we should not. I don't need to know both sides for that. I know we should not. We don't live in a purge society. I think we might be headed there.
It feels like it. It feels a little uncomfortable.
But we're not there yet, so let's not. So that's, I think, my like biggest issue, because I'm willing to hear the other side of it or whatever. I'm still probably gonna, even in the background, be like, I totally see what you're saying. I still think it's fucking wrong. So, and that's how, even like when my partner and I talk about stuff, I'm like, I totally hear what you're saying. I see both sides. I still think it's fucking wrong. But I get it. It's like, I can understand the justification of, the other side. So.
It's hard because somebody died. 2 people died.
Correct. Like, and I think that's where like me and like my friends and stuff like that have come from, of that it's like, you and coming from like the victim's point of view, and then that victim's family's point of view, who are now also victims, like their loved one is gone because of this person, and nothing happened, nothing. For real. I will say that I am glad that the jury took a long time to deliberate, because I that happened like right off the cusp of me listening to this podcast about O.J. Simpson.
Damn.
Yeah, called Confronting O.J. And again, with the O.J. thing, were we even born? Or we were like barely
was that the late 90s?
I think it was like 97, 90. I don't know. Okay. But I think we were not born, or we were
definitely not paying attention.
Bitties.
Yeah.
Teeny tiny babies. But with that, I didn't realize, because I mean it wasn't within my time period necessarily, so I don't know a whole lot about it. So that podcast was really awesome. They were in trial for 9 months. The jury deliberated for 3 hours.
Whoa.
And came back with a not guilty. And so I was like, everybody was like, how in the fuck?
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they thought that they were going to, people like went back to their home, like.
3 hours is insane.
Yeah, not okay. So that's why, I mean, I did look out for that of like, how long did they deliberate for? And it was, I feel like an appropriate, amount of time, whether or not it was all deliberation aspect, or whether it was like, we have a verdict, but we're just going to bullshit so it doesn't look bad. I don't know.
Yeah. Come out 30 minutes later, not guilty.
Right. Cause I think that, and that's what they were saying in the OJ podcast too. Cause it was a podcast that was hosted by, Ron Goldman's sister. Cause he killed, he killed Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. And
oh shit, it's his sister.
It's his sister.
Oh, whoa.
It's one of the victim's sisters.
I'm gonna have to check out that podcast.
And so she was the one that did it, and she interviewed the prosecutor and I think one of the defense attorneys, and some of the jurors and family members and things like that. Family members of Nicole Brown and friends of hers and things like that. And even the juror, like I think she interviewed like 2 jurors. And they were both kind of like, we were sequestered for 9 months. We wanted to go home. Like, we were done. Like, we didn't want to be there anymore. And I was like, that is not how it's supposed to go. I completely get it.
Just trying to rush out.
I completely get it, but also, like, you have a duty.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that. That's not what you want a jury member to say.
Yeah, and so they were like, that they had made a decision that when they did their initial, like, poll or whatever you want to call it, that it was like a 10-2, like not guilty, and 2 were guilty. And but then they were just like, they just talked for a couple of hours, and then the guilty people were like, fuck it, like I don't want to be here anymore. And that they only asked one question, like they only asked to have something, like one thing read back, which is not normal. And they
for 9 months.
For 9 months. 3 hours. And I might be wrong, but it was definitely not a full day. It was a very insignificant period of time for the amount of evidence and testimony and
just controversy surrounding the case,
trauma in it and everything. Not good. not enough time in the least. And so that's why I was glad to see that, because that was my kind of thought. I was like, I wonder how long they fucking deliberated for. Mm-hmm. If it was not long, I'm extra mad. But it seemed like it was, I guess an appropriate time, or a time that made sense for, the amount of time that it went.
Yeah, they did what, 3 days?
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Came out on a Friday.
And a more appropriate timing.
Yeah.
Than hours. So that's, I don't know.
I think I'm gonna do your camera here, because I realized I didn't do that when you sat down. We're still getting used to the whole... This is the weirdest part, is that these cameras... I don't know if you remember last time I had them mounted on a tripod.
Yeah.
And now they're...
I noticed that.
Sitting on this, and it's a little bit weird. We can turn that around so you don't have to keep...
Yeah, I was like, I see myself over there.
I think it's hard. Because 2 people died.
Right.
And guns are involved.
Correct.
And whenever you have guns involved... people just naturally fall into the camp of pro-gun, anti-gun.
Correct.
And it just sways people.
Correct. I would agree. And I think that I wouldn't say that I necessarily fall into like I'm definitely not. I wouldn't say I fall into like a pro or anti necessarily. My issue is, why do civilians need AK-47s? Why?
Because they're fun. I mean,
for what? Like, I can't imagine that you're allowed to go hunt with them.
that'd be pretty intense.
Right.
You're just spraying through the woods,
I can't
hoping you hit something.
that they're for game. Because for game, I get it. People
Mhm.
like to hunt. I'm not trying to say that you can't do that, although I could never personally do it. I understand that people like to do that. It's a generational thing. It's a family, yada, 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 yada. Who needs, other than, like, the military, needs an AK-47 as a civilian? I don't get it. And that's something I've talked to Jake about, too. He's like, well, and I can't remember what he's used as a counter or whatever, but I'm like, I don't, it doesn't make sense to me.
Mm.
I don't get it. And because then I've talked to people that are like more pro-gun. They're like, well, you just want to take away all the guns. I'm like, you can have guns. I don't give a fuck. I think that they are helpful, definitely in like, if a home invasion or whatever, yada, yada. Or, God forbid, like the zombie apocalypse. Something.
So you're going to need a backup.
And so I get it. I get it. But I don't get, like, I'm saying AK-47 because I don't know a lot about guns, and that's a big one. And that's a big gun that doesn't seem like a civilian needs to have it. So I don't get it. Because I'm all about, it's, you have a right to bear arms. It's something that, we have a right to. I get it. I'm not trying to take that away. Me, as if I'm going to be able to make this call.
Start a campaign.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
We're taking the guns.
I'm going to do it single-handedly. But I don't know, because then Jake's like, well, then where are you going to, like, draw the line, and why is that line drawn or whatever?
That's what worries me, is that we don't have fully automatic guns.
Mm-hmm.
And so people like to go with the AR-15 because it looks like a military gun,
Mm-hmm.
like you would jack somebody up with it. And it's like, okay, hypothetically, if we did, then where do we draw the line?
Right. And so, and I understand that, like, viewpoint as well as, like, where do you, I'm like, I don't know where you draw the line either, but I just don't.
You feel like there is a line, you're just not quite sure where.
There is a line and there should be a line, I just don't know where. But then Jake was also like, okay, but he's like, if you look at, like, prohibition and stuff like that, when alcohol became illegal, people still had alcohol. And people are just going to do it illegally. And I was like, people are still doing it illegally. People are already doing it illegally. So I don't know what the answer is. That's just how I feel about it. And I don't get it. But I don't have a lot of people, like, that, one, are going to argue with me about it.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I think, like most people, I surround myself with like-minded people to myself. So me and all my friends are on our high horse, like, fuck it. Makes no sense. Everybody else is wrong. So, and I do want to try and have people in my circle that have different viewpoints from me. It's just so uncomfortable. But I know it's important. But I know it's important, but it's so uncomfortable.
It feels weird saying this, and I've said it a few times, but, like, I like guns.
Yeah.
And it gets uncomfortable because people hear that and they're like, oh, you just want to go shoot things. And it's like, no, that's not what guns are.
Right.
They're a tool.
I know that's not what they're for.
Yeah.
But people abuse them, and then they ruin it for everybody.
They definitely do.
And I don't think that's fair either.
Mm-mm.
Like, the people that aren't doing illegal activity, which is a very, very, I feel like, small amount of people that are doing, like, illegal activity, especially on, like, a mass scale, is, like, ruining it for
everybody.
The good gun owners.
Yeah. It's just poor branding.
Correct.
And it's hard because guns, they are, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I was like, this can be
they are a tool, but if used incorrectly, like, they can do a lot of damage.
Correct.
I mean, so can a knife, but it's
harder.
Just gonna say, it's harder for people to imagine someone stabbing, like, 20 people with a knife.
Right. This is a closer range weapon. But I don't know. It's definitely one of those topics that's like,
you get a little skirmish. I get skirmish. I have some friends, not super close friends, but it's like, I don't know if I should talk guns with them because they get uncomfortable. And it's like, nobody should have guns.
Yeah,
like, nobody?
And I'm not on that part of it. I mean, I've shot a couple of guns, and I mean, at the shooting range, I was like, this was really fun. Like, I get it.
It's a rush.
Yeah, like, I get it. But I don't know. It's just, and that's what sucks too, though, is like what, Jake's point was, is that, it's been introduced into the world. even if it's quote unquote taken away, it's not gonna go away.
Yeah,
People
you can't put it back in the
No,
bag.
people are gonna find Pandora's box. You can't put that shit back in.
It's open.
It's open. People know how to do it. People know how to buy them. People know how to make them. And then if they're illegal, then if they're extra money, you know, it's like you're gonna, black market, whatever. I mean, that's already a problem.
And now people are 3D printing guns, which is gonna get really crazy. Because then you can't stop
What
anything.
do you do?
Yeah, if you have a 3D printer, which everybody's eventually gonna have when they get cheap.
They are already pretty cheap.
Are they?
Yeah, my boyfriend has one.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Does he like it?
Yeah.
I gotta get one.
He hasn't used it a lot since he left college, but yeah, he has one. I mean, he's not printing guns. He's printing like boats.
Little stick figures or something.
He printed a coffee grinder, but like
not a gun.
No.
Not an AK.
No.
Not like, hey, check this out.
They're already I mean, like his isn't like an industrial sized one, but they're already not. I shouldn't be telling people that. They're already not expensive.
I gotta look into that. Yeah, because a few years ago they were.
I mean, they're a cool thing.
Pretty expensive.
You can like build a whole bunch of like cool shit with it if you're responsible.
I think for the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, and this, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think the jury got it right, and I definitely did not dig into it as much as I should. I watched a lot of the prosecution's counter.
Yeah, their arguments.
Yeah. And I did not think the prosecution did a good job.
And
that was one of the things I noticed.
And
like,
that's
this guy
what I've
sucks.
heard is I didn't watch their, cross or, a lot of their...
The cross-examination. That's
I didn't watch like a whole lot of, like I watched a very small amount of his testimony, Rittenhouse's testimony, but I didn't, and I wish I had the time to be able to, I would have watched the whole thing live. Like, I would have sat down and watched it, because I enjoy watching that kind of stuff. So I wish that I had the time to do that, but I was at work. Because I have heard that basically prosecution screwed the pooch on that. Which then, if that's the case, and then that, because that's also the issue too, is that, and it was similar thing to like the O.J. Simpson case too, is that like, hey, we had all of these other things, we weren't ready, and we went ahead and did it anyway. Well, that's not okay.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that.
Like, so, they didn't have certain things, or they didn't think that certain things were pertinent, and then when it came out that they had those, people were like, oh, that would have changed my mind, or that would have potentially swayed me heavily in a different way. So that's what sucks too, is that you can like have a core belief that I don't, that this is not okay, this is wrong, killing people is not okay. I don't really, very few situations do I care what your excuse is. But then if the burden of proof is on the prosecution. If they don't meet that burden of proof, then by all means they lost. But it sucks, because that messes up the family. That's going to put, it puts a poor light on the justice system, depending on what side you're coming from. I mean, the justice system is already in a poor light.
Needs some help.
The system at this point, not really the justice system, unfortunately. But that's what sucks, is that because it's not, and I know that, those attorneys most likely are at home, kicking themselves, because especially with a high profile case like this. I mean, any case, I feel like attorneys, you can't hold on to all of it, obviously, because you drown.
But one this big,
but like big ones and important ones, when there's death involved, or murder or anything crazy like that, or really, really traumatic. I mean, all of them are traumatic in one way or another. A case is a case. But I mean, yeah, if the prosecution fucks up, or doesn't come off well to the jury, or the jury doesn't like them or anything like that, then that's it, which sucks. Because it's not to say that they're like withholding information, or but if it just doesn't come off well, or they fumble, or there are too many things that they can say, okay, well, you testified to this because they asked you that, but now you're saying something different, like they kind of steered you, whatever. The burden of proof falls on them, and if they don't hit it, even if like all the facts were there, and all the facts, if you were just to look at them, like point to this certain direction, and that makes sense to the logical person, if it doesn't come off well, or if there's a step missed, or anything, which I hope for a high profile case no steps were missed, but God forbid anything like that happened, then that's it. And then when you're done, you don't get to go back.
There's no redos.
You don't know. There's no redos. But what my friends and I were talking about is that I would expect that he's going to be taken to civil court and he's going to be involved in a wrongful death suit just like O.J. Simpson was. And that's where the family got their
stuck it to him.
Yeah, stuck it to him. Is they're like, all right, well, we're going to fucking take your money then. If you're not going to go to prison for killing our loved ones, then we're going to do everything that we can to, hurt you in a way, that no amountable way in the same way that we're hurting, but we're going to, we're not going to take it lying down. We're not just going to get away with it and walk out of this scot-free in some way, shape, or form. And I think that people, when they do that, get a bad rep of like, oh, well, it's a celebrity. Well, Kyle's not a celebrity, but like for the OJ thing or whatever, like he's a celebrity. They're going after his money. This is the plan all along. La, 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 la. It's like you want to, and not everybody, but I think most people, if your family member is murdered, you want that person to feel some sort of ouch. Like, and I think it's very few and far between that people are like, no, I've forgiven them. We're good.
Well, actually, did you hear that one of the guys who died, the girlfriend was like, I get it. I understand where Rittenhouse, I think it was Rosenbaum's girlfriend.
I have not.
I don't know if he died.
And then, then my other issue is with the people that are coming from the standpoint, and I get it.
Oh man, we're going in.
I see what they're saying, but also it's inexcusable to me is the fact that, and I don't know which one was which, I forget, that one of them and the other one is a convicted pedophile. Domestic violence and a convicted pedophile. And I get that makes it feel more okay, but I don't know, and I don't know if this is the case. I don't assume that he was having a conversation with these guys, these things came out, and he was like, oh, fuck you.
You're a pedophile.
Yeah. So I'm going to kill you. I highly doubt that was part of the motive. And if it was, that's still not okay. You still don't get to kill people just because you feel
not
like
even
it.
Pedophiles.
No. Although most people, I think, would fall under the category of that pedophiles. That's okay. But that's not our call.
I do believe it was the convicted pedophile that had a gun, though. That had the handgun. Mm-hmm. Which obviously, if you're convicted of a felony, you can't have a gun.
Correct.
So I feel like that does play into it.
Correct. I think that and so, he's also breaking the law, da 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 da. But like, then my thing comes from, but like, we don't get to play God. Mm-hmm. I don't get to kill you just because, and just like I said, I don't think that he had a conversation where he knew he was a felon. So he's like, we're a pedophile and you're going against your parole?
Bam.
Done. Like, that's, I highly doubt that conversation was had. And even if it was, you still don't get to just kill people just because, you don't agree with the way that they live or the way, the things that they've done, which I feel like I said, most people would not be in agreement with the things that he's done. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that you get to kill people just, based off of that kind of merit.
Do you buy that in self-defense?
See, there's
a little more leeway?
That's my issue, is that like I said, I don't know enough about the exchange. These are cool little coasters.
Right, they're records.
Exchange.
Shout out to my mom.
Between the parties beforehand. I don't know enough, and I don't know that, depending, and I am completely aware of the fact that news outlets, regardless of where you're getting it, is swayed. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult, I think, to find any sort of news outlet that's genuinely neutral.
Oh, absolutely.
And I do lean, obviously, like I said, I surround myself with people that are like-minded. I lean towards news that's more like-minded, as people on the opposite side do. And I try to stay in the middle, but it's difficult. I don't know enough about that, the exchange between those people before anything like that happened. And I still have a hard time with the, we don't get to play God and kill people. If it was some sort of I think it would be different if, like, and the first thing that comes to my mind is like an officer involved shooting situation where somebody is coming at you with a gun and has either previously already shot at you, or has a tendency for violence or something like that, or is having a mental health episode, then that, I still don't agree with it, but that makes more sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you are currently actively in danger and that's why you shot as a reactionary. I don't know, like I said, I don't know enough to know if that is exactly the case. If two people are coming after you with a gun and you feel genuinely that your life is in danger and there is no other way out, then that makes more sense to me. But I still have an issue with it.
That's, from my understanding, and again, little research, so take what I'm going to say with a grain of salt.
Right.
He was, I don't know if he was being chased at this point or not, but he ended up on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a guy who was trying to beat him with the skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
He shot and killed that guy. And I believe there was another one who was trying to take his gun
Mm-hmm.
away from him. He got control of that, shot that one. Then he was, and I don't know if I don't know the order of this. I believe
Right.
this was first. And then they started chasing him after those shots were fired, chasing him through a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's crazy, is there's FBI drone footage of this.
Oh, is there?
It's drone. I don't think it's drone. I think it's actually satellite footage from the FBI, which is kind of creepy.
That is a little spooky.
Yeah, a little spooky. Nobody's been talking about that, but
We're good.
there's footage
Skip
of that.
past
There's
that.
footage of him on the ground, too, being attacked by the
Mm-hmm.
skateboarder. And then they're chasing him through the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they're throwing bottles at him
Mhm.
as he's running through the parking lot. He's running away. So those two people are dead. He's running away from the people that are chasing him. I don't know if it's Rosenbaum. The kid with the gun, who was a convicted felon, I don't know if it was the pedophile charge or the assault charge, fired into the air
Mhm.
and was in close proximity, I believe, to Rittenhouse, and then went to turn and point his gun at Rittenhouse, and that's when Rittenhouse shot him. And this is the guy that lived. I think he was shot in the bicep.
Yeah.
And what was interesting about that is, on the stand, he testified that it wasn't until he pointed his gun at Rittenhouse that Rittenhouse shot him.
Right.
And I feel like that is important to know, because most people in that situation, if somebody fires a gun in your general direction, you're turning around like, okay,
Correct.
shit just hit the fan.
Right.
But again, it's dicey because people died. And nobody wants to see anybody die. But, I mean, if you have to protect yourself.
Right.
And there's the argument that should he have been there? Should any of them have been there? Should he have had a gun?
I think that's a big issue with it, too. And I can't remember exactly what it is that he said, but I do remember seeing I think it was a tweet or something like that, going around from like an ex-military guy. And he basically said, like, if you come into this situation with the intent, with the firearm or whatever, with, I forget what it was, more eloquently stated than what I'm doing. But he was basically like, at that point, with these and these things, which did happen, then, like, you are pretty much, like, SOL, and, like, you have committed enough that you are planning on committing violence, which is not okay. Like, it's in a way, I think it was worded to say that it's like, with all of these things at play, it's premeditated violence or something like that, based off of like military law. And I'm completely pulling that out of my ass.
Pulling it together.
But I do remember seeing that. I can't remember for the life of me what it was about. But I think that, and yeah, I think it's going to be tough, because then also coming from like my standpoint of trying to not always be on the victim's side, because the victim sometimes is to blame.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's all too often, but sometimes the victim can be in the wrong, and we can be bamboozled and completely thrown for a loop, and being lied to and everything like that. But I have a hard time being like, yep, deserve to die.
I don't think they deserve to die. I think it's just a shitty situation, but it's hard, because part of me wants to say if they hadn't attacked him, they would still be alive, which is kind of like blaming. Well, he was out there, and this is where it gets dicey. This is where my knowledge really gets unclear.
All dicey.
Yeah, supposedly he had been, providing medical attention to other protesters and like doing, because he was an EMT cadet since like 2018.
Wasn't he like 17?
Yeah, But he's been he said he was, this part was in
So
the
he was like 14.
trials. Yeah. It's a cadet program. So he wasn't like
Okay.
he wasn't an actual
I was
EMT.
like,
He was in their cadet program.
Okay.
So probably basic triage,
Yeah.
like how to wrap a bandage, how to check
I was
somebody's
like,
pulse,
oh,
like
I don't
basic
think they'll let
stuff.
14-year-olds on drugs.
Yeah. So he was out there doing that. I don't know to what extent. I don't know if he gave people bandages
Correct.
or what he was doing, but I can understand why he would have a gun for protection, because it is an open carry state. So
Mhm.
technically no laws were broken. And these protest riots hadn't been completely peaceful,
Correct.
which I feel like that
I
plays
feel like
into it
that
a little
plays
bit.
into it
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I think that plays into it, and yeah, I think it's an extreme case of wrong place, wrong time
For everybody.
on everybody's
Yeah.
account. And I think that, and I mean, I'll admit that based off of like the news media and stuff that I see, he's completely painted as an evil son of a bitch.
Oh yeah, if you watch anything left, MSNBC, CNN.
So that's like what I have been absorbing, and I was like, makes sense to me. And so like I said, I haven't done my darndest to stay in the middle on this particular thing. I just know when it came out, I was pissed. I've remained pissed, and I've tried to let it go until today.
And then I brought it back up.
And then you brought it up. And I fucking knew it too when you texted me, and I was.
As soon as I heard that verdict come out, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna
I
talk to
know.
Michala about this. Oh, we're gonna
as
go."
soon
in.
as you texted me, I was like, "You go bring it right now."
Yep.
I thought about texting you and
Be
being
Nick,
like, "I
we're
don't
not
want
talking.
to."
Listen, when the Rittenhouse thing calms down, I'll
I
come
don't
on.
want to.
Until then, it's not happening.
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to do.
I thought about it, and I was like, "I don't want it."
To be fair, I wasn't planning on opening with the Rittenhouse thing. I was gonna like, oh, we'll ease in, and then
You did not.
no, I did not. First thing, right out of the gate. I think it's hard because the way we've been charged politically,
Mhm.
you have white kid, AR-15,
Right.
killed 2 people.
White
That checks all the
Yeah.
boxes for, and then you have the Ahmaud Arbery case, which
Mhm.
is going on, like, or ended.
That's
I think
done.
they convicted him, right?
Yeah, they're guilty.
It's just the worst setting for anyone to go in unbiased, because you have
Yeah.
all these hot button issues.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it checks all of them.
For sure. It's definitely, it's not going to be a mellow, uncharged, as far as like politically charged case.
Yeah.
Especially with, everything that's gone down in the past couple of years. I think even if everything that hasn't gone down in the past couple of years, didn't happen, it still would be, politically
It would definitely
charged.
be up there.
But I don't think it would be as bad. I think if we didn't have the presidential leadership that we had previously had, it wouldn't be as charged. And I think that he didn't help that for that kind of political charged. I also don't like, and I forget who it is, but I think he's a councilman. I forget his name. But it was a Republican councilman that he was like, that he wants to hire Rittenhouse as an intern.
Oh, I did hear. I can't think of who it was, but I heard about that.
And that he was, oh crap, what was the statement that really got me? He said something along the lines of, I think he'd be a good intern, and I think he can continue to do great things for America. Something along those lines, and I think those might have been the words. And I was like, that was a poorly worded statement, in my opinion, because all that screams to me is...
It's okay to kill people.
Is we can kill people that are on the opposite side of us. And it just seemed like a very dividing statement to me. I was like, he didn't run that by anybody.
I thought it was weird how they tried to paint it as a race thing. I thought that was really weird.
I didn't see anything about that.
I saw a lot of that. People were comparing it to all these other cases involving like white on black or black on white crime, and I was like, "What, guys? These are..."
If it was an African American shooter, you mean? Yes. Okay, I have seen a lot of that.
A lot of that.
I have seen a lot of that.
But the intern thing is, I don't think he's a hero, and I don't think he should be celebrated. I don't think he should be. I think the jury came out with their verdict. I think we shouldn't be holding this over his head. I think it was unfortunate what happened. I think it played out. If it was going to play out this way, I think that's probably the best way it could have played out, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And it sucks to say that. But I don't think, like, there's no way he's not traumatized from that. There's no way, and I've seen people say, because that crying meme of him sitting up there,
I wasn't gonna.
that's a little dicey. Some people are ugly criers.
I wasn't
Some
gonna
people,
bring that
it
up.
doesn't look good when people cry. And I was like, I don't know if he falls into this category or he's trying to.
The one thing that did kind of, because I was like, this is some fucking bullshit.
Repost.
I didn't repost any. I haven't reposted anything about anything
Some of those
like
memes
that.
were funny. I was dying for a few of them. And I was like,
But
this is not good.
because I saw the video of that, and was texting my friends, and I was like, I have seen toddlers trying to convince their parents that they hurt themselves better than that bullshit. Like, for real. But because I was definitely one of those people. What really got me about that, though, was the crying and the not so casual glance to the jury in the midst of his crying. That kind of fucked me up. What made me pull back kind of on that, probably unnecessarily harsh criticism, I will admit that, is that when the verdict came back, he cried almost the exact same way.
Okay, so maybe that was a genuine.
And so I was like, maybe he's just an ugly ass crier. I don't wholeheartedly believe it, but it did make me rethink it.
Some people, I've seen some
people are
and it's like,
ugly,
just pull it
ugly
together.
criers.
Yeah.
Some people are ugly criers, and it's like, that can't be real.
But regardless, I don't know if he's remorseful. I will give it that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he feels sorry, because I do genuinely believe, and I agree with it to an extent, that it was self-defense.
Mhm.
And so I get if he would be like, listen, it sucks that there was loss of life. I'm sad that people had to die, but I'm not sorry for how my actions played into that,
Mhm.
because I think they would have beat the fuck out of that kid. If they had
Probably.
gotten his gun away from him, if they hadn't killed him, they definitely would have beat the fuck out of him.
Probably. And that wouldn't have been,
That would have been bad either way. If they beat him to death
Correct.
and then we're charging those three.
Correct.
Like, either way, it would have been dicey.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's remorseful, but there's no way that killing two people doesn't have some. Maybe it's not appreciable now, like he doesn't recognize it, but I guarantee it had some effect on him.
I think that if that doesn't have some effect and trauma on him, just this whole process in general is going to have some trauma on him.
The public backlash
if
will
he's
definitely.
not, unless, and where my other issue comes in, unless he is being essentially rewarded by people hiring him or getting book deals and and documentaries and like all of the shit that inevitably comes from big trauma
Well,
stories
he did that
like this.
Tucker Carlson interview.
Right. So I think that is going to be dicey also, and that's a risky move for certain interviewers. And whatever, but I think that the people that are probably going to partake in those things are like, oh, fuck it. They don't care.
It's gonna be. You're not gonna have any left-wing people watching that interview.
No, they would lose so many people.
I do have a problem with the fact that students are trying to kick him out from Arizona State now. He was gonna go there. I think he was gonna take nursing classes there, because I think he just graduated high school, right?
I'm not sure.
Or he was going there in the fall, or maybe the fall of next year. But for whatever reason, it was Arizona State nursing classes, and they're trying to kick him out. The students are like going after the admin, saying, no, you need to kick him out. I have a problem with that.
I don't think that that's necessarily right, but I understand but I get why that's happening, because people are pissed. So, I mean, I get it. I don't think it's necessarily right. I mean, at this point, like, it doesn't matter what we think in the eyes of the law. He's an innocent person. So he should be able to move freely about his life as he had previously.
I don't see that happening.
It's not going to happen.
Public opinion is
no. It's not going to happen. 100%. No, he's never going to have a normal life again. But that's what he should be allowed to have. You know, if it was a smaller scale case, a local case, you know, whatever, and it wasn't, you know, if it was like a DV or something like that, you know, if you're not convicted, even if you are convicted and, you know, you serve your time or whatever, people don't know about you, you can walk about your life pretty freely unless somebody outs you. Or unless it makes like big headlines, you know, even like in your local community or, you know, nationally or whatever. So, I mean, I get that, and that does, I mean, suck, but I mean, I get why people are reacting that way, but he, in the eyes of the law, based off of what the verdict was, he, you know, is entitled to what he wants to do. And he can make, you know, those decisions, and if he got accepted and he wants to go, then he can go. But, I mean, people are going to be pissed. But, yeah, he's never going to have a normal life again. There's absolutely no way.
Everybody saw that case.
Yeah.
I heard something about it.
It's going to be in books, probably, like history books, just like the O.J. Simpson case was. You know, it's going to touch on all realms. I can tell you right now it's going to be in psych books. Because O.J. Simpson's and stuff like that was in any criminology, any psych books, any, you know, it's going to go down, you know, with the rest of them. So I don't.
There's no easy way to handle it.
No.
Unfortunately.
No, there's not.
What really gets at me, and I had this conversation with someone a few days ago, and they were like, he got away with murder. And I was like, did you see any of the videos of them chasing him? And they were like, nope. You might want to check out some of that. Like, I don't care how anybody feels about it. I think you're entitled to how you feel, absolutely. Right. But have a little basis for something. And that's, even like minuscule, like I saw some of the prosecution. Like, okay, then at least I know you're invested. But if you just say, oh, I heard on CNN.
Right.
What?
Yeah, and that's why I'm definitely not like, you know, this is not the hill I'm going to die on.
Yeah, me neither.
No, definitely not. Because I've gotten a lot better. I definitely used to be that person that I was like, I'm a double down. I don't know shit, but I'm doubling down. Just because you don't agree with me,
it was me back in high school.
Yeah, that was same. And so I was like just super ignorant, like going with the flow of like what, you know, the media that I identified with, and just being like, yep, sure, that's fact.
Die hard.
So I definitely don't double down for as many things, or like barely anything at this point. I shouldn't say barely anything, many things, but not on things that I don't have a more comprehensive knowledge on, which I don't have a full comprehensive knowledge on this. And I think part of that was also that I didn't want that shit in my, I didn't want it in me. I didn't want to absorb it, because I didn't want to be irritated. I didn't want to be saddened by, you know, the loss of life. I didn't want to get caught up in the, you know, social media frenzy and like feel like I had to argue with people because I had more knowledge about it or anything like that. I was like, it's too much. And, you know, I'm already surrounded by enough crime, that I didn't really need.
You want to spend your off time.
Yeah, I don't need
getting worked up.
Right. Yeah, that's why I stopped listening to like my true crime podcasts and stuff. Like I don't.
Crime Junkies. I got back into it. I started listening to it as I fall asleep again. It's like, oh shit.
That'll give you nightmares.
Oh man. It is.
But so I stopped listening to like Crime Junkie and like those kind of ones where like each new episode is like a case or whatever. But I did dive like the O.J. Simpson one. Like I've been trying to find and getting into like dive deep in like one case kind of podcast, like mini series of podcasts and things like that. So like the Confronting OJ, and then I think that was the first season. There's like this I think it's like from Wondery or something like that. But the first season was Confronting OJ, and then the second season was Confronting Columbine. And that was crazy to listen to because that was hosted by one of the survivors also. And so that, and then I listened to Chasing Cosby, I think is what it's called. Chasing Cosby, about Bill Cosby. That's
probably a dark one. I don't know. Well, all those are dark.
They're very dark.
Yeah, not that one specifically.
And then I listened to that one, and that was crazy. I mean, they're dark, but they give me a different. They don't make me afraid of the world.
Yeah,
so
because
much.
if you're listening to 10 new cases,
Right, and you're
that
like,
can
oh,
really
it
warp your
never
perception.
ends.
Yeah, then you're
which,
like, okay,
which
the
you already
world.
know in your but you don't have to think about it. But then when you're like, oh, they have a surplus.
There's one every day.
They're never gonna run out of cases to talk about. So like a deep dive, and then I was like, this is a better way to like get a comprehensive knowledge about. That's what I tell myself, and. So, and then I kind of took a little break from it, but I'm currently listening to another one called The Shrink Next Door, I think. But that one isn't holding my attention as much because it's not really crime necessarily. It's just a really fucking weird case.
Is it like a therapy podcast?
It's about this shrink, I think somewhere in LA or somewhere in California, like down in that area. In like the 80s or 90s. It shows you how much I've been paying attention to it. That he was a shrink, but he had multiple patients that he was completely unethical. But there was like this guy that he had as a patient that he ended up basically like taking over his life and like moved into his home and used all of his things and like ran his bank account and like took over everything. And like people thought that the dude who was the patient, the psychiatrist lived in his home, and it's hosted by a guy who was neighbors to that psychiatrist and the patient because it's his fucking house. And everybody in the neighborhood thought that the patient who owned the house, who was very wealthy and owned the house and owned multiple homes and things like that, was the shrink's handyman.
Wow.
Like, and nobody knew that
it was actually his house.
It was his house, and he had all of these things, and this guy was just using all of his shit. And so Jake had told me about it because he had seen it on Reddit, and he had sent it to me, and I was like, that sounds fucking crazy. And then it was like months ago, and then I was like looking up podcasts to listen to, and I was like, oh my God. He was like, I told you about that. And I was like, well, it's really interesting.
Well, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, super weird. So I've been true criming still, but like getting into that kind of stuff.
Deeper cases.
Doesn't make me as uncomfortable with my day-to-day life.
Yeah, nobody talks about the fact that you kind of have to pick and choose what you focus on, because if you take a breadth look at all the cases going on, it makes you a little uncomfortable. Like, we just had a school shooting yesterday.
Where?
It was a 15-year-old.
Fuck.
15.
The fact that my immediate reaction isn't holy shit. Are you like, for real?
Where?
I'm like, where?
Is this the one I just heard about?
Correct. That's a problem. the fact, and I hate when I react that way when my immediate reaction isn't like heartbroken, holy crap. Where, how many, what? It's like, okay.
Oh yeah, another one? Where did this one happen?
I hate that.
That's where we are.
Yeah. And it makes me sad every time, but I haven't heard about that one.
Do you think that's a mental health thing? Or do you think that's a gun thing? Or more nuanced than both?
I think it's both. I would say my initial reaction is that I'm leaning more towards that it's like a gun thing, in the sense that these mental health issues have always been a thing because people have always had brains and chemical imbalances and everything like that. But then when you're given access to more tools, and there is a lack of support, I think it's a mental health thing. I think it's a gun thing. I think it's a societal thing. I think it's a family values thing. I think it's, it's a lot of things coming into play to make one big, huge crap pot, of a shit situation. Because I don't think that it's with kids that, are necessarily maybe taught like gun safety or things like that. I think it's with kids that don't necessarily understand. I guess I can't say that as much now with like the current school shootings. I think in the beginning, of like this becoming a big issue, but I think now there's been so many that like everybody knows about it. In the sense that, what a way to deal with your problems. Go ahead. Especially if especially because I think the majority of them is suicide by cop or suicide before, anybody can enter the building. So I think the motive is like, let me just hurt as many people as possible. I'm gonna die anyway. I'm not gonna be held responsible.
I think this kid surrendered. I know he's not dead. I know they didn't kill him.
Or they'll surrender and then,
Just
they just face what it is that you don't go into a situation like that, I can't imagine, and just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go home. and
Everything's gonna be fine.
I think that I can't say that it's the case for everybody, but I think that there's an element of like punishment for their own, feelings of that they want to create their own punishment in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's, that the ultimate goal is suicide, whether that be by cop, SWAT, or themselves, or, that, and I think for some people, for violence incidences, they are like, hey, I can't trust myself, so let me show you what I'm capable of and what I've been thinking about doing so that you can lock me up so that I won't be a risk to other people because I can't control myself. I think that that's the case for some people. I wish that there was a different way they would go about it, but that's not my call. But I don't know necessarily what the issue is. I don't think that it's not a gun issue. I don't think it's solely a gun issue though either. But I don't think it's solely a mental health issue. Like I said, I think it's a whole lot of things. There's a reason that these weren't a thing hella years ago. What the exact catalyst is, I don't know.
You don't think mental health has gotten worse though recently? Within the past, I would say since early 2000s when social media and
that's
the
where I
iPhone
struggle
is
I don't know that it's necessarily gotten worse in the sense that, there are, more people necessarily struggling with these kinds of things. I think that, and that very well could be, like you said, social media could definitely, I think, plays into it. I don't know how much of an uptick that puts in it without having really read about it or comprehensively thought about
data,
it. Yeah. I think that definitely plays into it, but I don't think what I don't understand is when people are like, well, back in my day, you just, sucked it up and nobody had these problems. They did. There just wasn't either a word for it, or it wasn't acceptable to talk about that, or they didn't have the family structure, or there was no support system. I think as much as social media has hurt a lot of people, it's helped a lot of people, because that gives you, if you have shit support in your family or your hometown, or you have no friends or whatever like that, you can form relationships and friends that can be life-saving and life-changing from somebody across the globe that you would have never had access to beforehand. So I don't know what the ratio of good and bad is as far as how much it's helpful and how much it's harmful, especially I think for youth. But I think it plays into it, but I don't think that, depression and anxiety, which are, I'm only saying that because those are the two more common, they didn't just pop up in our generation. They've been around. There's a reason that there's been, different volumes of the DSM. There's a reason that we've had psychologists from way back when, because there's been mental health issues the whole time. We just maybe have a more well-versed society to talk about it or treat them, or more acceptable, so people feel like they can talk about it, and they're not, suffering in silence or, dying from, by their own hand or drugs or whatever. That's definitely still a problem. And I don't, unfortunately, think it'll ever get to zero, which is obviously the goal, but I don't know that you can't reach everybody, unfortunately. But I don't get the notion of well, nobody ever had anxiety back in my day, or I've talked to older people than me. I say adults and then I'm like, I'm an adult. But
that's me.
Yeah,
we need an adult.
Yeah, I need a grown up, please. People older than myself, older adults that they've explained stuff to me, or oh yeah, well, I get pains in my chest or whatever, you just work through it. And I'm like, my friend, you have anxiety, and that could be helped. You don't have to feel like that all the time. we can talk about it. Like, and it's not gonna necessarily go away, but it can get better. Like, you don't have to live like that. So I think that that's a big difference. Whereas, like, my, generation of parents, which I think isn't speaking for most people my age's generation of parents, because I have very young parents. But like normal people's parents' age is like, well, just like suffering in silence. Whereas, like, I don't know if it's like my generation, but it's definitely me where I'm like, oh, I have shit. I'm in a depressive episode. I need help. I will let you know. Like, I'm having severe anxiety. I need to leave the premises. Like, I need to leave, or I'm having a panic attack. And it's so interesting because my family isn't necessarily like that. They're not like a keep your feelings down, like, kind of people either. But, so I don't know how I ended up this way.
I'm so the opposite.
What
I would
think
rather
about.
die than ask for help. I would like.
It doesn't have to be that way.
That's what everybody says. It's like, no, you can. And I'm like,
it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it's definitely generational. I think
for
Our
sure. I think
for
it's
sure had
generational. It's 100%
different.
cultural. It's really cultural, and that is really sad too, because I think it's like white people are like allowed to have feelings, and then the predominantly ones that I've seen that I've like done like read research and stuff about it is Black and Hispanic communities. Feelings, absolutely not. Therapy, don't know her. Like, not a thing. Like, we don't talk about it. And there's a lot more. I think it's more culturally acceptable to have like torment and stuff like that within like the family unit, and it's normal. Whereas like somebody like me, I'm like, why the fuck? We don't get to call our children fat to their face. That is not nice. Like, they're gonna develop a complex, and then you're gonna be pissed when they're anorexic. That's on you. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, so I think it's society, definitely generational and cultural. Where it's hard for people to break out of that. Even if like societally, you have people like I had a friend in college that we were roommates, and I am this super like outspoken, like, yes, go to therapy. It's a privilege. Unfortunately, not everybody is able to do therapy, which I wish everybody had, the financial means to. But if you can do it, go to therapy. Everybody go. It's for everybody. And then she was just in a cultural, had a cultural background that was like, and she was like, I've never even thought about therapy. Therapy was never an option. And I was like, based off of what we talk about, I think you would benefit from therapy. And then she ended up going, and she's like, I feel so much better. And I was like, see, that's what I said. But it took her a long time in order to get to that step, because she had to like slowly break down those barriers and those walls, like with her family. And that's not to say that every person every family that falls into that, that's in that cultural subgroup or whatever, if you're raised by your grandparents or anything like that everybody is like that. But I think it's more common in those areas, and I just based off of research. Which sucks because it shouldn't be that way. And it's these marginalized communities that are then more marginalized that might, I don't know if that's the answer, but might benefit, if they benefit from therapy, maybe they're not going to act out in a quote unquote violent, stereotypical way, which is bullshit. But like, maybe if you gave them some more support, or if they were quote unquote allowed to, do these things to take care of themselves, maybe, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't end up bad.
Well, it's weird that most of these school shooters, I'm going to say this without any hard statistics to back it up, so be ready for this. Most of these school shooters are white, correct, right? Are white men.
Correct.
Are white boys.
White what?
Boys.
And men.
Men. Well, this kid was 15, which is insane.
Who are also a marginalized group when it comes to white women can go to therapy. Nobody else.
Oh, but not white men.
And I guess I should have included that. So men, I would say African American men and Hispanic men in general. But then the African American community and Hispanic community, and again, those are the two that I've seen the most research on, as a whole, is more not acceptable. But then especially the men in those But even like men, like white men and stuff, just men in general.
Yeah. No therapy.
Who needs therapy? Not me. And so, and you know, I've tried to be like, hey, you can go to therapy, like with my partner, and he's like, I don't need it. And I'm like, I'm not saying that you do, but it could be beneficial. He's like, I don't need it.
I think therapy is definitely helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I worry that the generation before us, it was too far one way where it was no getting help. And I worry we might be going too, like the pendulum swinging a little bit too far to the other way. Because I know a lot of people that have therapy and are on all these meds, but they don't do anything concrete to actually try to improve their lives.
That's the issue, is that it's not duct tape.
That's
or
like
I guess it is duct tape.
It's a Band-Aid, yeah.
I guess, yeah, the correct term, it is duct tape. But people don't get, and same thing, it reminds me, like, I draw a parallel with, like, therapy, like, with dieting and stuff like that. Like, if you just eat what Jenny Craig or whatever tells you to eat, but then you sit all day long and you never do any sort of physical activity, or you're supplementing in between all of those meals or whatever with what you regularly eat, but then you still feel better and okay, but you're not seeing any results and you're confused. You have to put work into it. Like, you don't, and same thing with therapy. You don't just get to go and talk about your problems and you walk out and you're fixed. I tried it that way. Doesn't work. I tried it that way, and I was one of those people that I don't understand why I'm not better. It's because I wasn't doing anything.
Like, I'm going to therapy. Yeah, why is this not helping?
This is supposed to fix it. No, that's not how it works. You don't get to just go and talk about your problems. And yeah, I feel lighter at the end of it because I've dumped it on somebody else, but it doesn't fix the way that I react to situations. It doesn't fix to how my trauma responses go off. It doesn't fix, it doesn't make me forgive, people that have caused me trauma or move on from people that have caused me trauma, like anything like that. You have to do that on your own. You got to do homework is what you have to do. And that took me and I've been going to therapy since I was like a young teenager, maybe younger. I don't remember. At least like 13 and on and off. And it took me until like a year ago for me to be like, oh, I have to work at it. Got it.
It would have been useful a few years
ago.
That would have been
really good.
That's okay.
I would have loved to have known that and done that. I did know that. I was just like, it's going to be fine. I don't have that big of problems. It will be fine. And then, I think it takes for some people, like, to get to it takes people a certain point to be like, okay, now I'm going to try hard at it. And for some people, it's like you hit like absolute rock bottom. Like for me, it was like my own mental health and my trauma response and everything like that was heavily weighing on my relationship. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to not be with this person anymore. I should probably get a move on and get this figured out. So I think I don't know what everybody's light bulb moment is going to be, but I think it takes that for some people. Some people are just real self-starters.
I think that's how it is for a lot of people.
Yeah, some people are just real self-starters and go-getters, and more power to you. But, because, yeah, and it's like any other situation. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and it's not necessarily that it's going to get, not worse in the sense that, like, your mental health and stuff like that is going to get worse. For me, personally, it was like having to, and I think I shared something on my Facebook or whatever, that it was like, in order for you to grow, you have to be willing to acknowledge your own toxic shit and the own things that you have done and the own things that you have contributed to that have messed you up, or that you have to take accountability for your actions. And if you have a toxic trait that is then making, this person be triggered, that's then causing a tension between the two of you, you need to own up to what it is that you're doing that's inputting into this issue. Because then you can't be like, oh, well, it's you, if you are also part of the problem. So that...
Which it's hard for people to do that.
It's very hard. And like I said, up until a year ago, I was definitely that person that I was like, I go to therapy, I am fine. All of you people that don't go to therapy, I am a higher being. And I have it figured out. And none of you do. And I am better than you all. But like I I wouldn't say that to people, obviously, but I think I would put that energy off because I was always like, go to therapy. I love therapy.
It's gonna fix
It does
everything.
wonders for me. It's so good. And I was like still at home, like in depressive episodes and like crying all the time and like hating on my own self and everything like that. But now I can say it with confidence, but with the added asterisk of
But you're
you
gonna have to do the
work
work.
at
Yeah.
it. You have to do the work. You don't get to, eat.
You can't just eat cake all day and
No.
get a six-pack.
Sometimes.
I
Sometimes
wish
that's
I
what,
was one of those sometimes.
that's
That would be
what you need.
amazing.
Sometimes that's what you need. And
You could just eat cake and get shredded, never have to go to the gym. That would be...
sometimes, and that's the other thing is that same thing. And then again, I think that there's a lot of parallels with mental health, like with dieting, because that's just, I think, how people can understand it or it makes sense to people that aren't on a mental health frame of mind. That just because you're on a diet and one day you eat like 2 pieces of cake and you skip your salad or whatever doesn't mean that you throw caution to the wind and end the diet forever and never stop. You're gonna have setbacks. You're gonna like relapse, and like with smoking cigarettes, on a diet, going to the gym, creating a chore or, creating something that's part of your routine. Like I can almost guarantee you it's not going to go off without a hitch the first time. Like there's going to be something that sets you back, whether it's your own mind or your own, mental issues, or whether it's, something doesn't work out in your, outside exterior world that messes with it and then you get affected by it. It's not going to go off without a hitch, and it's not going to go off without a hitch ever. There's always going to be hiccups, but you have to be willing to be on that path like full-heartedly to get past those hiccups and be like, oh yeah, that sucked. Like I'm being super toxic today. I'm gonna try harder tomorrow. Like you have to, and so you have to keep yourself accountable like throughout the whole process, which is hard because nobody wants to be like, yeah, that's my bad. I fucked up there. That was not me. Because it's so easy to just be like, well, that's just part of who I am. I'll just continue to be that way.
Which that's where a lot of people fall.
For
that's
sure.
The line
and I
people
was
hit,
definitely
and it's like,
I was definitely like that, where I was like, well, I get it from my mom, so it's not my fault. And like just like I was like, this is just who I am, and if you can't love me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. And it's like
I've seen so many of those posts on Facebook.
Which,
if you don't take me at my bottom level, you don't get to see my glow up or whatever. It's like, okay.
Which I think the intent behind that is that, like, if you can't love me, like, while I'm, like, going through a depressive episode or something like that, and you can't hang for, like, the 2 weeks or a couple of months that I might be in that situation, then, like, fuck off, which I get. But, like, you don't get to be a piece of shit.
Yeah, some people are, like, just bitchy, and it's like, why is everybody leaving me? And it's like, well, you're not that nice.
Yeah, you don't get to
we gotta put in some work.
Yeah, you don't get to be a piece of shit, and, like, people have called you out and been like, hey, you should probably work on this. And be like, that's my core personality trait. Fuck off. Like,
yeah, clearly you don't get to be around me.
So you have to put work in, and it's hard. I mean, you have to put work into, I think, anything that you want to be successful at, if that's what you want to call it.
Or even just improving yourself. You're going to have to put in work.
Yeah, your mental health, your relationship, Like,
to change whatever state you're in currently, it's going to take work. You don't just get to another level. Yeah.
For sure.
Which a lot of people don't want to hear that.
No, I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people will be like, "Oh yeah, for sure." And me saying being that I was like, "Oh, for sure, that makes total sense." But then doing it, be like, "This is really uncomfortable.
Yeah, like, I'm not doing this anymore."
I would really rather not. I'm just gonna go back to acting this way or reacting this way, and who needs to communicate in a relationship?
That's not important.
Not me.
You don't need that.
We're
good.
Me. I'd rather just be broody and pissed over here and give no explanation and not.
That's just my core personality.
That's just who I am.
Yeah.
And if you don't love me that way, then get out. So, I mean, it's tough, but it's necessary.
Yeah, I think people are just. I don't know if it's like. I don't think it's afraid of putting in the work. I think it's easier to remain in that state that you're in. It's easier not to change.
It's way easier not to change. And it is really uncomfortable because you have to be willing to confront the parts of yourself that I think, at least for me, it was the parts of myself that I hated the most, that I was
That's what it is.
fully
Yeah.
aware of the fact that, hey, this is not okay. And you shouldn't be acting like this. And there's definitely a way around it. You just won't put in the work for it. You have to confront the parts of yourself that, that you hate the most about yourself, whether that's because things that you have, built up of like, hey, whenever I do this, like this kind of bad shit happens to me and I don't like that. Or like things that you've been bullied about, or things that old partners have, pointed out about you of like, hey, you have this really toxic trait or whatever. And you're like, I'm just going to ignore that. You have to confront the parts about yourself that you don't like, and be willing to either fix them and like flip them on their head, or find a way to like work around them and like communicate through them and things like that. Like for me, I like when I'm talking to my partner, I recognize that there are certain things that I do that I'm like, while I'm saying them and have the conversation, I'm like, you are being so fucking neurotic, and I'm sure it's really annoying, but we both know, me and my inner self know, that I need to go through this process in order for me to feel like I like fulfilled that task, I guess. Like for example, I just scheduled my booster shot, and I have a serious needle phobia. Like, it gives me anxiety to talk about getting a shot. And and I am trying to get over it, but I have serious needle phobia. And so I have, the past 2 shots that I've gotten, I've had my partner come with me because I'm a child. And so he needs to get his booster shot, and so I was like, we'll go together and we'll get our booster shots at the same time. That way you don't have to take any extra time, and so you're there getting something too. And so I was talking to him and I was like, okay, when do you want to do it? And he's like, I really don't care. And I was like, okay, well, these are the days available at this like one Walgreens. And he was like, babe, we can like walk into anywhere. And I was like, okay, but for my anxiety, like I really need to go to this Walgreens. I won't go anywhere else to get the shot. I said, this is where I got the past 2. This is where I would get the booster. He was like, they're all the same. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I was like, I understand.
Just bear with me. This is what we have to, this has to happen.
I understand that they're all the same. But it doesn't. I said, I'm already going to have a severe panic attack. I need to try and minimize that as much as possible. He's like, we can do a walk-in. I was like, no, we cannot. I said, nope, we can't. And I have to schedule it. And it has to be a scheduled appointment. And the whole time I'm like, I'm really sorry. And he's like, I totally get it, because he's dealt with this for the past like 8 years. Then I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't handle doing a walk-in, because then my anxiety goes high up and I have a panic attack, and then I'm standing in line, and then what if they don't have any vaccines left that day, and then I worked myself up for nothing? I have to do it again. Like, I can't.
It's like a spiral thing.
Yeah, it takes so much out of me to have to do that experience, which I know is necessary, but I hate it. And so, like, stuff like that, where I'm like, I understand that I'm spiraling and I'm being not at all logical to, like, regular people that don't have this issue that I have, but I need these things. I need to think these things out. But the difference now is that if I had done that or had that conversation like a year, 2 years previous, I would have just gotten pissed that he was giving me all of these other options of like, we can just do a walk, and I'd be like, no, we fucking cannot. And I would get upset that he wasn't understanding like why I need to do these things. So I've had to like retrain myself in order to be like, I get that I'm being really, really neurotic and probably really frustrating because you just don't, it doesn't matter to you, but it matters to me. And so this is why I'm acting this way. I'm not just being hard for no reason. And so like, it's important to, even though I don't know when or if that's going to go away for me, because my phobia is so bad from past trauma, but at least I am making it better, I guess, by like, hey, I get that this is shitty that I'm doing this, but I need you to understand why I'm doing it, so that it doesn't come off as me just being like stubborn of like, no, I don't want to do a walk-in. It's like, I physically cannot do that. So I think if you can't like fully change a behavior, like at least find a way to try and like explain it, or like do it in a way that, hey, I get that to a neurotypical person for certain situations, this is going to come off as fucking weird, but like this is what I need to do, and I hope that you can respect that.
It's like eliminating that friction between
because then we're not like angry at each other because like he thinks I'm being an asshole and I think he's being an asshole. Like he still was probably irritated with me, which I get. I was irritated with myself. I don't want to do this either.
But at least he can see where you're, like, he knows you're not just, like,
right, and that's
being
what
crazy about, I don't want to go to this Walgreens. It's
and
this is the one I need to go to.
Yes, and that's what I've, like, told people is that, like, I know that I'm being, like, stubborn and frustrating and stuff. I don't want to be doing it either, but I haven't figured out a way not to, so this is how we're going to do it. I was like, this is what I need to do. And you can either be with me, and you can do it with me, and you can be there to support me, or I will find a way to do it on my own. Bear
with me.
Yeah, or I will find a way to do it on my own. And he's like, I don't want you to have to do it on your own because I know how bad this is for you. And I was like, great, so this is what we're going to do.
Is it just a fear with needles? Where does that come from?
I know exactly where it comes from. It's really bad.
Oh, no.
The situation wasn't that bad, but the phobia is really bad. I've talked about it with my therapist and stuff, and she's like, okay.
Does she want you to go get more shots? Like, just go get pumped up with some needles.
No, and that's what I told her. I was like, I think that the best way to do it is just exposure therapy, but I know that nowhere's just gonna give me shots.
Yeah.
I was like, and also
nowhere good.
No, and I was like, and I also just don't think that would be good for my mind. But she walked me because I do telehealth with her because I started going with her after COVID. And she was like, okay, because it was just when I had brought it up. And she couldn't see me, for one. And for two, I don't think that people understand what I'm saying when I say I have a needle phobia. Because I've like gone into doctors and I'm like, am I going to need a shot? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, good, because I have a needle phobia. And then like we'll get more into the appointment. They're like, we're going to give you a shot. And then everything breaks down. They're like, oh, this is not normal. And I'm like, I was trying to tell you.
What happened? So you just like...
I have a full-on panic attack. When I got my 2 first shots, I took Xanax before and I still had a panic attack. Oh,
shit.
And I've never taken Xanax before.
Shit.
But Jake was like, maybe like try and take a Xanax. And I was like, okay, that sounds like I would love to just be calm through this whole thing. That would be great.
And that didn't
still
help.
Had a panic attack. The second time I took 2 and I still had a panic attack.
Oh my god.
And so it's really not good. There's like not really anything else that does that to me. But it happened when, I mean, as a kid, no kid like likes getting shots or getting poked. So I was like a regular kid. I'm like, I
kind of did.
I don't. You're.
I like the blood draws because you just watch it and you're like, what is? Like, that's my blood. Little sadistic. But yeah, I like that. Getting blood work done, I was like, okay, let's go. Let's fill up some vials.
I guess there are wackadoos like you
out there, but...
Oh my god, that makes me lightheaded.
You're like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Where are the needles?
Wow. Okay, that's not normal.
You're like, I need to get the fuck out of here now. I clearly walked into the wrong podcast.
We're done. Talking about Rittenhouse and needles.
Let's wrap this up.
This is too much.
I didn't realize you were that kind of person.
I'm never coming back. But so it happened. Actually, I'm like dead ass serious. I'm gonna have one of your sodas.
Do it. There's cider and stuff in the fridge. I don't know if there's any sodas in the fridge.
I just need sugar. But that's what I'm saying.
I don't have any Xanax. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's really, really bad.
So severe panic attack. It just kind of.
Yeah.
It just hits you.
So it happened when I was in middle school. I think 8th grade. Was when I was on here the first time and we talked about my dairy allergy and everything like that whole shit show. It developed because they were like, oh, we're gonna do some tests, and they wanted to do a blood draw. I'd never had my blood drawn before. Wasn't worried about it. Did fine. They put the needle in, whatever. They drew, shit you not, 3 vials like this big, like the size of like maybe a house key, a little cylinder. And I never got my blood drawn before. I was like relatively small, but it was not a lot of blood that they were taking. My face went white, my lips went purple, my hearing went out, my vision got split. You know, like in movies when they do like when a person is dying, but it's from their point of view, and like it's like severe ringing, or like when a bomb goes off or something in an army movie and their ears ring and they can't hear,
the vision's all like
and
jacked.
They can't hear anything and their vision is jacked, bright spotty. That happened.
Whoa.
And so,
Did you eat anything before? Was it because
I
sometimes
don't,
that happens, right? If you don't have like sugar in your system or something, that's why
yeah,
they do like the cookie after
I don't
you give blood.
remember like what I had previously that day. I wasn't a kid that like didn't eat lunch or anything like that. It was after school. So I never didn't eat lunch. And I think that they asked me like that kind of stuff, like, what have you eaten today? And they thought I was good. And they were taking like a minuscule amount of blood in comparison to
Yeah,
what
it's not.
people get
Yeah.
drawn. So I think that even if they didn't ask me, they were probably like, she's probably fucking fine. But yeah, that happened. I couldn't hold my own head up. Like my head was like doing this shit. Like it went, I thought I was dying. Like there was no other option for me. And then they gave me like juice or whatever and I felt better, but I had to be in there for like a half hour or so. My mom had to carry me out. I couldn't walk. Um, so then it's all been downhill from there.
Whoa.
It's been downhill from there. Nothing like that has ever happened to me again. I had to get blood drawn a second time, and that didn't happen. But now, whenever I know, that's why whenever I make any sort of doctor's appointment, dentist, dermatologist, anything like that, if there's any possibility of needles, I'll ask them when I'm making the appointment, will I need to get a shot? There's been a couple of times where they told me no, and I get there, and then they tell me yes, and I freak out because I wasn't prepared for it. Even if I do prepare for it, it never goes well. So, but now I will not get a shot unless I have eaten a lot that day and I bring some sort of juice with me, like sugar with me, whenever I go. And so the pharmacist, when I got my first shot, laughed at me because I brought a little thing of juice. And Jake sat with me when I got it, and I didn't watch the whole time. And like, I just, as soon as we got in there, I can't even like look at the syringes, much less talk about them, obviously. And so I just closed my eyes the whole time and like just squeezed Jake. But what's funny or what's weird, I guess, is that most people are like, oh yeah, I don't like shots either. And you see those videos of people that are like, like they move away. I don't move. I can keep that side of my body relaxed. Like I've never had anybody be like, relax, 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 which I feel like is most people's reaction. They're like, oh fuck.
Tense up.
Yeah, and they're like, relax, relax, relax. I can have one side of my body, like I'm right now, one side of my body super tense. This side is completely relaxed. And I won't run away.
So it's just like mentally
It's
you're
just
in
mentally,
turmoil.
I am dying.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, people are like, you don't inch away or whatever. And I'm like, that it's all up here. It's
I'm dying,
all
yeah.
up
Don't
here.
worry
I
about
am
it, but
dying.
I'll hold still.
Yeah, because I'm like, I think because I am cognizant enough of it to know that if I run or if I tense up, it's going to hurt more. Which, and then other people are like, it doesn't hurt that much. It's just a poke. I'm like, I don't really care about the poke. It's just the idea that needles equal death for me in my brain. Makes no sense, but that's where I'm at. And so if I tense up, it's going to hurt more, which isn't fun. And then if I run away, this experience is just going to be longer. And then they're going to have to hold me down, and that's going to be more traumatic. And so I'm like, let's just, yeah, do it. But I'm dying inside. And so when Jake got his shot first, and then I got mine second. And as soon as I got it, I opened my eyes. He like put all the needles away and stuff. Jake was like, drink your juice. And the pharmacist laughed at me. And I was like, sir, it's either this or I'm on the floor. What do you want? You pick. What would you like me to do? And then I got very, very lucky with Jake as a partner, because I feel like most people would be like, this is absolutely
what is happening
bananas
right now?
Like, I'm not putting up with this shit. Whereas with Jake, and then after the shot, they're like, hang around the store or wherever for 15 minutes just to make sure nothing happens. I think most people, they leave.
That's me. I'm like, I'm grabbing my cookie and I'm out.
And I told Jake, I was like, I will need to stay for 30 minutes just to make sure. So we walked around Walgreens for 30 minutes, after both times, and he is totally fine with it. He's like, of course, makes sense. Whatever you gotta do. Whereas most people be like, I want to fucking go home. He's like, we'll look at the toys. We'll look at all the different ice cream flavors. It's gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. So I got really, really lucky with him, I guess, because most people would not do that. I don't even really want to be doing it, but I just
I need to.
And then for my for my second shot, for the first one, they put me in like that little cubicle thing, like where you were in your own little box and everything was good. Nobody but the pharmacist was looking at you, and I was happy. My first shot fucking hurt because everybody lied and they were like, I didn't even feel it. It's the best shot I've ever had. That shit hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But so then for my second one, we weren't in the cubicle. We were like in the little aisle thing, and I was like, oh my god, people are gonna see me cry. This is not gonna be good. And so that already put me on like an extra panic. Mind you, I'm on 2 Xanax at that point.
That is so crazy that you weren't like just completely mellow off 2
On
Xanax.
the ride there, which normally I would be fucking shaking, I was like totally chilling. And then we got in the car, and then we got out of the car, and I sat down, and like they called me, and I fucking lost it. And yeah, uncontrollable. And so, but then the second one, we were in the little aisles or whatever, and Jake came over with me, and the guy was like, because on the paperwork that you fill out, I don't know if you do it for everything, but for this paperwork, it was like, do you ever get dizzy or faint during shots? And I put, yes, ma'am. Me. And so I've never fainted, ever, during it, because I bring my juice. But he was like, what's this about? He was like, does this happen? Is it, because I think the question is meant to be like, if you have a reaction like to certain medicines or whatever, if you get dizzy or faint.
Yeah, they're gonna have to call
I
an
think
ambulance.
that's what it's for. And so he was like, when have you had this reaction? I said, oh, I haven't actually passed out. I said, but I have severe anxiety, so I'm just waiting for the day that it happens.
I just want you guys to be ready.
Yeah. And so I'm just trying to be helpful. I'm trying to help everybody out. And so he was like, okay, let me get the pharmacist. I was like, you are not the pharmacist? And he was like, and I felt terrible because I was like, he was like, no. And I was like, oh yes, please go get the pharmacist. I was like, not you. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're qualified. Absolutely not. I said, I need the boss to do it. And so then at that point, I am already in fucking tears and streaming down my face, hyperventilating, like full on panic attack. And the pharmacist comes over and she puts her hand on my shoulder. She goes, how are you? And I was like, okay. And I'm like full on crying.
Oh,
She's
no.
like, you don't, or I was like, I'm fine. And she was like, you don't look fine. I was like, literally pay no, I just want to go home. Like, pay no attention. I swear to God, I'm fine. I have severe phobia. Like, literally, I promise you I'm okay. And she was like, well, I don't want to do this. And I was like, I'm already here. I'm do it right now.
I'm prepared. Like, let's just do it.
Like, I don't want to do this again. Do it right now. And so then she did it while she was talking to me, and I didn't even feel that one. And I was, because she was like, done. And I was like, really? Oh my God. And then I stayed around for a half hour.
Damn. And so it all stems back to that one.
Never had an issue before that.
And that's when the phobia started, was after that. Damn.
Yep. It's really bad.
Damn. Yeah, it sounds like it. If you're over there dying in the kits, like, that's not. Well, luckily you don't have. I mean, usually you don't have to get a lot of shots.
No, not that often. That's one of my. At this point, like one of my biggest deterrents to having children is because they got to draw your blood. You got to get hooked up to shit in the hospital. Like, that's one of my biggest things, is because I'm like, if I don't get this under control, it gives me so much anxiety, and my body goes through so much stress that after each shot, like I told my boss when I scheduled my booster, I was like, my booster is scheduled for 1:00. That is when we come back from lunch. I will be leaving at lunch. I will not be coming back for the rest of the day because I will be taking a 5-hour nap when I am done, because my body crashes so hard. And that's what I've done the past 2 times.
You think it's just like the stress of that moment? It just
and then I get home and I calm down on the ride home. Jake makes sure to play like music that I can't help but sing along to, or he'll like sing to me. No,
like death metal, like screamo.
Yeah, and I get home, I hit the couch, and I sleep for like at least 3 hours because my body is just done. And she's awesome, and so I texted her all that. I was like, I will not be coming back for the remainder of that day because my body is going to crash severely, because I've told her that for my past 2. And she texted back, she said, you are perfect in every way. I said, you are
That's a great boss.
You are the best ever. So, yeah, so I get to do that next Friday. It's really cool. Good. But yeah, it's not. Yeah, because I had a friend in college that he was like, oh yeah, same, I have a needlephobia. I was like, I guarantee you we're not the same. We're not the same. He's like, it just gives me so much anxiety. I was like, does it? I bet it doesn't. I was like, I bet I win. I'm sure I win. I don't want to, but I bet I win.
When you're in tears, then come talk to me.
This
then
is
we'll
not
have a
the
chat.
game I want to win. And I remember, and I tell people this too. People think I'm fucking crazy. But I'm like, this is how bad it is. You know, like when you get like a cavity and like your tooth is drilled into or whatever, they give you a shot, like a Novocaine or
like
whatever
your gums
it is.
or whatever, right?
Yeah. I had an appointment scheduled, and they told me that I wasn't going to need to have a shot or whatever, so I wasn't mentally prepared. They lay me back, they pull out this thing, and I go, excuse me. And
hold up.
Wait a minute.
We're going to press the pause button.
And he was like, I have to give you a shot. And I was like,
oh, no.
no, you don't. And he was like, it's going to hurt. I was like, I would rather it hurt. And so he drilled into my tooth without any
shot.
numbing.
Oh my god! So if you don't mentally prepare for it, it's not happening.
Even if I do mentally prepare for it, I don't want it to happen. But I've come to terms with it, and I've accepted, and I've like talked myself into like, this is something I have to do. If I don't do this, then like something bad is gonna happen. Like I have to psych myself into it.
Can you do, like, if someone just walked in and was like, okay, I've got your booster, could you do that? Well, my bad. Okay, maybe not the best time to phrase that question.
I was like, no!
Like, okay, send it back out. We're not doing it today.
That was completely unconscious reaction.
Okay.
But I was like, wait a minute.
You turned like someone who was actually going to walk in. I was like, all right.
No, I couldn't. No, I could not. I mean,
so you need a little lead up time.
A little bit of time
like, okay.
would be cool. I mean, I could. Maybe really lightheaded. This is so fun. I'm so glad I'm here.
I know, right? It's gonna be so hard bringing you back on again.
This has been awesome.
Nope, I don't think so.
I love your podcast. Yeah, a little bit of like heads up is always nice.
Yeah, just so you can like. Be like,
yeah,
okay, this
sort
is
of
gonna
prepare
happen.
for
it's
it.
Gonna be fine.
Yeah, but yeah, no, on a whim is not my jam. I did do it on a whim like one time at a dermatologist office because they were like, yeah, you need a cortisone shot, and I was like, oh, okay. But I had like some crazy shit going on with like some sort of like crazy weird thing with my legs or whatever, and they were like, you need a cortisone shot or this is not going to go down for like another couple weeks, and I was like, okay.
You know how how chill I am with needles, and it's actually to a fault. I don't know if this is a story I should be telling you, but we're gonna roll with it.
All right. I'll just sit back against my support and drink my soda.
Nobody's gonna give you a shot. You're good.
They better not.
I was down in. This is gonna be so bad. I don't know if I should tell you. This might psych you out for your. It wasn't a shot.
Okay.
Let me just preface that, but it had a needle in it, so I went down. I was in Sacramento, and I had like this infection in my throat, and it got to the point where like I couldn't talk. Like my throat, like I couldn't talk, and my throat was on fire. And so I texted my sister and was like, "We need to go to the hospital." I think she picked me up from school. I was like, or I left class, went to one of those like emergency rooms, but it's not. It's like, you know how we have that little medical
like
center?
Urgent care?
Yeah, urgent care. Yeah. Went there, sat there for 5 hours, and I texted my sister and was like, I was like, I can't talk. I need you to come and like help me with this. So she showed up. We waited, I think, hour 6. They got us in. The doctor walked in, and I wasn't talking, so I was like texting my sister what to tell him. And I got this voice to text app. And I was like, here, like, just listen. I'll type it all out for you. And he was like, oh, no, you guys need to go to urgent care. Like, you need to go to the emergency room, the actual hospital. And I was like, oh, all right. That would have been useful 6 hours ago.
Right.
So we go to the emergency room. They finally get us in. We had, like, a 3-hour wait there. And they're going to hook me up to an IV to, like, pump in some steroids and help out.
Fun fact I learned about an IV.
Oh, no.
Did you know the needle doesn't stay in you? It's a tube.
I did not know that. I thought it was the needle. They just pulled the needle out? I didn't know that.
They pulled the needle out, and it's like a little mini catheter in your arm, or in your hand, or whatever.
Okay, so then this story only involves a quick needle. So maybe this will make... It's still not going to make you feel better. They had... I don't know if it was a nurse or a newer doctor, but they're trying to run the IV, you know, in my arm. So we start off with this arm. He's going in and out like 3 times. Nah, I can't seem to hit the vein. We're going to try your other arm. And my sister...
like,
I'm looking at my sister like...
What did you go to school for?
Yeah. 3rd time, he switches arms. I'm looking at my sister like, should I be alarmed that this is... He goes in and out. I think he did it twice on the left arm. He's like, I'm going to go grab a different needle. And my sister's like, you need to get somebody else to do this. I'm like,
Maybe the 6th time he'll get
No,
it. You know,
Nick.
like maybe I don't want to make him feel bad.
Oh
Like
my
he's just
God.
trying his best. I've got holes in both my arms, no IV, still can't
I will
talk.
insult them and their whole family before.
He came back and my sister's like, we would like somebody
Sir.
else. We would like somebody else to run the line. I was like, yeah, I'm looking at him like, sorry, buddy.
Sorry.
Like I still can't talk, so I'm just sitting there like,
that would be Jake. He would be like, "Don't hurt their feelings."
Yeah, that's what I was like. I don't want to make him
That
feel.
would
He
be like,
already
fuck
gave it
that.
5 tries. Like maybe he's gonna get it. Like, no.
I'm not
So that was
banking
my
on my
needle
life.
story.
Thank you very much.
But it wasn't a shot. It was an IV. So as long as you don't get an IV, you're good. Yeah.
I had to get I did have to get an IV, but they kind of, I don't know, I don't remember them giving me the IV because I probably blocked out that.
Yeah,
thing.
blacked out for that minute.
But yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. Thank God my sister was there because I'd still probably be trying to get
Yeah.
that IV.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
What a weirdo. I would
Just
be
like-
like, that makes me
Just
wonder, like,
waiting, and
do
my
I
arm,
have
you know,
good
it's
veins?
just like black and blue, and I'm like, am I just?
Do I have
like I'm
good
shooting
veins?
a
You better
arrow.
hit that shit the first time. Or like you can could put them in your hand now. You can see my veins better in my hand.
Yeah,
Do it
something
there.
tells me you're not giving anybody 2 chances. It's like it's one and done. You
You-
better hit your mark, because
You get one
I'm not
shot.
gonna be around. Oh, you missed? Oh, well, we'll
I'm
see you
not-
next month.
I guess I
'cause-
don't need it.
Yeah.
Life-saving surgery.
Yep,
Catch
no.
me next time.
Oh, you missed?
I'm
That was
out.
your one shot.
I am out. Or yeah, I told Jake, I was like, if I do give birth or whatever, I said they better figure out. I said I don't want a C-section, but if they gotta knock me out and do a C-section, I would prefer that. Just knock me out.
Just don't let me see the needle coming. Just,
I would love to be able. Even if I don't see it coming, if I know it's coming, it's
it
a
just
problem.
gets you.
Yep. Because I've tried that. I'm like, maybe if I don't ever see it, doesn't matter. It helps a teeny tiny bit, but not enough. But yeah, I was like, I would really love to be able to say that I, experienced natural childbirth, but I don't think I need it that bad. But that's what I was telling my therapist. I was like, I would really like to get over this, like, before I have children, because I can't even, like, watch needles and, like, go into other people. I was like, I'm pissed that, like, every movie and TV show doesn't have a flash trigger warning when there's a needle.
There's a needle in this.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Or that, like,
Trigger
right before
warning.
it goes, it's like, boop, boop.
If you had a needle phobia, you should probably turn
Yeah,
away
or,
right
like,
now.
the beginning of the movie starts out with, like, when there's a needle being inserted into skin, a little red square will flash it. And you can close your eyes.
Oh, God.
Or if
Does
I
she have any tips? Like, hey, if you do this, you can kind of use it?
She told me that I should, and I haven't done it because it causes me anxiety. When I first told her about it, she's like, how about we do like a breathing walkthrough exercise? And I was like, okay. I was like, that sounds peaceful. And so she walked me through, like, I'm just on my couch and she's wherever she's at.
Just like deep breaths.
Yeah, and she was like, you go to a doctor's office and the physician is very nice. Their intentions are very good. They're not here to hurt you. Like, being very, very whereas most people, they'd be like, this is totally working. And then, like, we hadn't even gotten to, like, the shot part. It was, like, a very long-winded thing of me just trying to relax. I was like, I'm gonna stop you right now. I said, I am so lightheaded right now. I, like, can't. She's like, okay, maybe we don't have to do that. And so, but then she wanted me to, like, take, like, 2 minutes, like, every day, like, when I was going to bed or, like, something like that, and just, like, lay on my bed and, like, visualize having, like, a very positive experience with a shot. And I was like, okay, Susan, I don't feel like having a panic attack every day.
I'm just trying to go to bed. I
I'd
don't
really
need
rather
this.
not. And then, I haven't talked to her in a while, but last time I talked with her, she said that she could, if I would come in and she would show me how to use it, that she could give me, like, you know how people with diabetes, like,
the little
get that
pricks?
finger prick? She said
That gets you too? The finger prick? Or are you cool with that?
that doesn't bug me as much. I think that she still doesn't fully understand what my issue is. Because it's not really the pain of it. I think that might help. But she was going to give me a one that like, if me and Jake, like, came in, that she could show Jake how to do it, and Jake could, like, give me, like, quote unquote shots, like, in my arm. And I was like, I'm gonna just have holes all over the place.
You should get one of those needles where it looked like those movie prop needles where
Uh-huh.
it looks real and then it just pushes in.
I do that with like mechanical pencil.
Okay.
And that's not
You're
the
like,
problem.
because you know it's not.
I know it's not
you
a
know it's not
needle.
real.
And so if I know it's not, then like it's like whatever. But yep,
Damn.
when the real thing comes into play, I didn't plan on airing that out.
I know.
But
Power of the podcast.
here's my trauma. One of them. But yeah, that's like my most PG trauma, so that's fine with me.
Damn.
Yeah, it's really fun. I like being 23 and having panic attacks. Cause it happened when I was when I got my wisdom teeth taken out too. I don't know why. I just assumed that they would just gas mask me. And then I remember
they didn't gas you? No. Oh.
They gave me an IV. And
Oh,
they
damn.
didn't tell me beforehand because I thought I was gonna get gas mask. I didn't think to ask. And they didn't gas me. I just remember laying down and I was already nervous because like I don't like the idea of being put under. It freaks me out. But so I was laying there and I remember laying and like waiting for them to come and I was waiting to just get a mask put on. And then they wheeled this IV over and I was like,
No.
and the last thing I remember, I was like, is that for me? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I love how nonchalant you are. This is not okay. And then I remember just tears like streaming down my face and like falling into my ears and stuff.
Oh.
And then they were like, how old are you? And I was like, I'm 18. And then I don't remember anything else.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not good.
Did you come out loopy at all after your wisdom teeth?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Not crazy loopy. Josie's got a gem of a picture of me though, because my mom took me to her house because I demanded to see her when I was done. So she's got a gem of a picture of me that she's posted on social media.
Oh no.
But no, not super.
I came out crystal clear.
Oh, I wasn't crystal
It was
clear
like
by any means.
it was like I blinked.
Oh
and
no.
it was over. I was like, okay.
I wasn't crystal clear by any means. I do recall doing the whole like I remember laying there and like waking up. Or I don't remember waking up. I just remember, like, the next thing I remember is that they were like, okay, now try and hit my hands with your feet. And they were, like, this far above, like, my feet. And I, like, couldn't fucking do it. They're like, we're going to keep you here for a little longer. I was like, okay. Probably shouldn't try and walk on these bad boys anyway.
Just fall over.
So, yeah, I just remember that. Them trying to be like, now touch my hands with your feet and with your hands. And I did it during, like, President's break. So I
didn't get any of that.
Chilled at home. Okay,
I was like, oh.
Because you just.
I was so excited too. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be cracked out of my mind. Like this is gonna be great.
Mine was awful. I'm just not built for.
You're just like anything where I need to have medication to do something or
I'm
something's
not...
going in. Just get me out. I'm okay.
Not built for it. I can't do it. It took me like 3 days to fully recover from the anesthesia. Like my mom had to walk me to the bathroom for like 3 days. I couldn't fucking function. It's not good.
Oh man.
I don't know. I'm like I don't know if I'm too small. I don't know what the deal is. They overestimate my internal strength. It's not very high. I don't know what it is, but it's not good.
Yeah, I don't know. I was so bummed. I remember waking up and being bummed. I mean, like, oh damn, this is it. Okay. Because you see all those videos of people like singing or like. One girl was I watched a video of a girl trying to talk to a banana and was like having a legitimate conversation with it. And,
that's awesome.
And her mom's like, that's a banana. And she's like, she can hear you. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. Nothing.
No, I didn't get any of that.
Yeah. We didn't get the good drugs.
I
got
something.
You got something.
I got something.
That IV, those are.
They streamlined that shit to me.
That hits. That was, when I got the IV, I didn't feel like drugged out, but I definitely felt like, I'm feeling pretty damn good.
Yeah, I wasn't like, I don't remember being like scared or like anything like that.
I just felt
like,
good. I was
just
like,
this is my new normal. This is who I am.
I was like, I get why people like do hardcore drugs.
Yeah,
like,
right.
This is like,
right. This is
okay.
Not
I can get behind this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a problem. But yeah, they mainlined that to me. They were like, she needs it.
You're like, I'm sorry. You didn't tell me there was a deal.
I really don't need it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
But yeah, I didn't know that I learned that.
I didn't know the tube thing.
I learned that on one of my podcasts, my Ladies and Tangents podcast, because they just did an episode about like common misconceptions, and that was one of them. That they were like, the needle stays in your arm. I was like, that was also a fear of mine. That like, don't ever move your arm once the IV is in, because God forbid you do this shit, that shit snaps off inside. Who knows where
They
it
gotta
goes?
dig out the needle.
Yeah.
Then they gotta give you another shot to
Yeah.
calm you down to get the needle.
That was always my envision, is that, like, if I, like, move my arm, you know, it's right here, right? The needle's gotta be, like, this long. It's fucking not. But there's no other option. It's gotta cross over my joint. So, God forbid, I curl my arm, and
Blow
then
a
the needle shard goes
vein.
directly to my heart,
And
and I'm
then
dead.
you die. Wow.
That's the only
You
option.
clearly put some thought into this.
Well, it's in your vein. Where else is it gonna go?
I did not know the tube thing. I always thought that they
That
they
made me
just
feel
left it
a
in.
lot better.
Does that freak you out? So when you had that, like, could you look at that and be like, okay, there's no needle, or it's still the thing entering your body that's kind of?
Oh, well, I just found that out.
Oh.
So whenever I've had IVs, I just
Now you got to
never-
go get an IV just to see it.
No, I don't think
I
that's
just need
the
to
solution.
test this out.
I don't think that's the solution. But yeah, that it's like just it's like a little
Just a little
catheter
tube.
in your vein, which is like, that makes sense. That's probably safer.
Yeah. Yeah, then a needle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's safer than a piece of metal in your bloodstream. Just chilling there, waiting to kill you. But so. It's probably better that way.
Oh man! And so next week you go home.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, good. It seems like you're handling it well.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm
Oh.
so excited.
That's cool. Jake's gonna go get one with you. So
Yeah.
It's like, okay, buddy system.
Yeah, for sure. Because when I first got it, I was like, you don't. I can do it by myself. And he was like,
No.
no. And I was like, I can. I'm a big girl. I can do it by myself. He's like, I want to come. And I was like, okay. I was like, perfect.
I didn't know that they were. So anybody can get a booster shot now.
I guess.
I heard that they're trying to get it. I think it's Pfizer's pushing for. I think it's 16 and 17-year-olds to get one.
Yeah, I think that anybody can. But then I think Jake said that the first time that he tried to, that, like, it was like, are you autoimmune compromised? And he was like, no. And he was like, are you elderly? And he was like, no. And then they were like,
I'm secretly 55.
not for you. You don't get one. And then I was like, that's weird. When I tried to see if I could get mine, it was before I was able to. But when I first looked, it didn't give me any issue. It just said, it's not time yet. It hasn't been the 6 months or whatever it is. And then I signed myself up, and I signed him up on, like, separate screens, and I clicked at the same time. It's like, we will have the same appointment. Go at the same time.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I guess there's, like, walk-ins that you can do, like, walk-ins or whatever for your booster. And I was like, that's all fine and dandy. I need it scheduled, please.
Scheduled at least a week out.
At this particular Walgreens, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I can't go to any other
I
Walgreens.
need time.
We have to go. I already got 2 here. We're going back to this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I remember when I drove by that Walgreens that I got it at with my family. I was like, and my brother was like, that's where I got one of my shots. I said, that's where I got both of my shots, and that's where I will get my booster. And they were like, Michala, you can get your booster anywhere. I said, I know. I'm aware.
You can. I can't.
Yeah, I said,
You
that
can.
might be what the majority of neurotypical people can do, but not myself.
Yep.
And then my dad was like, he's like, oh, which one did you get? And I was like, oh, I had Pfizer. And I was like, so then I'll get the Pfizer booster. He's like, you can get the Moderna booster. They're interchangeable. I was like, that's awfully assumptive of you that I can do that. I was like, are you for real?
Oh man.
He's like, I'm just saying, you can do either one. I was like, that's great.
Thanks for the advice.
Good
Not
for
happening.
the information.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, because yeah, he was like, well, and he was like, what are you gonna do if when you get there they only have Moderna? I said, I will fucking reschedule. I will. I'm not
Guess I'm not
adding.
getting my shot
I'm not
today.
getting the booster today. He said, call me when
Oh
you got
my
the other
God.
one.
Yeah, I think they're kind of pushing for people to mix and match, right? Having some people said, "Oh, you get a little more protection if you swap up," which seems weird.
I
I don't
will
know
be
if I buy
slightly
that.
unprotected
Yeah,
then.
I'm like,
I'll be all right. I'd rather not.
get a shot of this, get another
That
one
seems
of
like
that.
you don't mix alcohol. Why
Yeah,
would you mix vaccines?
It never works well.
No,
Yeah, that just seems a little too.
it's not at
hodgepodge,
all
like,
scientific
we'll
logic. But
just throw something else in there. See
mm-mm.
what happens.
No thanks.
Yeah,
I'd rather you not. I'd like
I'll take
to
a
have
hard pass on
all
that.
the same one. Thank you.
Seems reasonable. Stick with one brand.
But yeah, so that's what I'll be doing next week.
Okay.
It's very excited.
Yeah, I can tell you're very calm about it. It
Mhm.
seems like you've got a good.
Yeah,
good
my
grasp.
vibe is super
Yeah,
chill.
you're super mellow, super calm. I mean, we kind of got you with the whole somebody coming in right now thing, but I think that was like a good test. Like you handled it well. You know, you're freaked out or anything. I think you're gonna be good.
That was not even at all a cautious response.
You freaked me out. I was like, is somebody, what is happening right now?
Oh, because he pointed over there and I was like, no
the way you
fucking
turned,
way.
I was like, oh, okay.
I was like, you can't be
Bad
serious.
joke. It was like,
I'm never coming back on.
listen, the
'cause you're
podcast
gonna-
is not quite big enough for me to start dishing out
You're
doses
gonna-
of stuff to people.
You're gonna prank me.
Yeah,
Next
next
time I
next
come
time,
on.
I'll have somebody
my
just waiting in the
God.
corner.
You know,
Okay, come
you
in.
know, you know what I'll do? If I can escape that, I will videotape the whole entire experience for the booster for everybody. I would rather
Oh
that.
God. Oh well, luckily it's not something that you have to do like a daily thing. Like if
Correct.
you're afraid of getting into cars or something, that
Correct.
would be
Yeah, that
that
would
would be
suck.
way worse.
Yeah, luckily I've never been in a car accident because I think that would take a toll on me.
Knock on wood. We don't need that happening.
No, I say that I've been in a car accident, but Jake always reminds me that I have not.
Have you been in one? A
Techni-
minor one.
Technically, no.
Fender bender.
No.
Oh,
I wasn't even hit.
did you? Oh, well, that's interesting. I would classify, a car accident as like your vehicle, touching somebody
No,
else's.
I wasn't even hit.
Oh.
I just call it that kind of to piss him off or to get at him. Because he had a really, really bad car accident in 2016. Like a really bad car accident. He had to get flown out, like all that kind of crazy
Oh
stuff.
wow.
And then 6 months later, he got in another car accident, and I watched it happen because we were driving. He was driving in front of me, and I was driving behind him, obviously. But I was like the car directly behind him, and it was Christmas Eve, and we were driving from Fortuna to McKinleyville, and we were just passing like HSU area, on the highway. And it went from like snowing to hailing to black ice like within like 5 minutes, and it was super, super weird. Like I've never seen anything like it. And he lost control of the car, so I watched him spin out on the road and hit the center divider. And so when I watched that, I freaked out. I slammed on the brakes, which you're not supposed to do when you're hydroplaning around black ice, but who the fuck is going to think about all of that in the middle of it? And so I spun out, and he went this way, I went that way. And I luckily didn't get hit. I don't know how, because I crossed in front of people because we were in the fast lane. So I crossed over the slow lane and somehow didn't get hit by anybody. But my car spun like 1 or 2 times and went on the opposite side. And I somehow landed very peacefully and very gracefully on the opposite side outside of the white line, but didn't hit the hillside or anything like that. My car just stopped, and I rearranged myself and then just like hoped that he wasn't dead. And so I was like, yo, we got a car accident. He was like, you didn't get in a car accident. And I was like, it was very traumatic for me. I said, I watched you get in a wreck, and then my car spun out. I could have been hit, but I wasn't. So I've never been in a car accident, but that's just
That's pretty close.
Yeah, that's just what I like to
That's fair, yeah.
tell people.
Jesus. Car accidents are no joke.
They're very scary.
I was going up to Oregon for school, and I was driving up there one weekend after being home. And it was right outside of Grants Pass. I was going under an overpass, and then you like go under and come back up right outside of Grants Pass if you're catching I-5. And it was pouring rain, and I lost traction on my back tires and spun, managed to turn into it and correct, and then slammed. There's this little divider as you were going up onto the on-ramp, and then it was like grass. I corrected and then still slammed into that and went over it.
Oh no!
And I was like, okay, not good. Got out, checked the rig.
Not good.
I was like, nothing looks jacked, but I hit it like broadside completely and it was probably 5-6 inches tall. I was like, there's no way, there's no damage. I didn't.
Right.
Nope. Kept driving.
What the?
Went up there. I was like, I'm just gonna wait and see if a tire falls off or.
I would have been
I
like, I'm not
died,
getting back in the vehicle.
Yep, kept going. It freaked me out a little bit. I was like, okay, shit, that was a little intense. And then just kept going. I was like, all right, well. I gotta get where I'm going. So I guess
we are not the same. Oh
yeah,
my!
we're just like, okay, well, that just happened.
Wow.
I mean, I took like a solid 5-10 minutes on the side because I was like,
Oh yeah, that's
was-
an ample amount of time.
yeah.
To calm your nerves.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. Turn my music back on. Kept driving. I was like, what else am I gonna do? Yeah, that was fun. Good times.
You and Jake would probably get
Good
along. He'd be like,
times.
yeah, that makes
Yeah,
total
he'd be like,
sense.
You took 10 minutes, bro. I would have been out.
Yeah, what
I would
are
have just leaned out the window and be like, no, we're good.
We're fine.
I got 4 tires. No, we're okay.
Oh, I don't
Kept
get it.
driving.
Good for you. Good for
Fun
you.
experiences. Yeah.
It must be nice.
Well, at least you didn't get like traumatized
True.
from that, because I know some people that have gotten in car accidents and it took them a little bit to get back in the
Yeah,
car. But
I
like,
don't-
I'm surprised Jake.
Yeah,
back
he
in
did get
after
yeah,
that.
he did get back in the car relatively quickly, but I think he still had anxiety, but he was like, what else am I gonna fucking do? Have my
Yeah,
parents drive me
you gotta go
anywhere?
somewhere.
I'd rather not. So, I mean, it was traumatic for me. I was like, you let me know when you have reached your destination. Because that was how I figured it out, because I was like, he left from baseball practice to go back home like 2 hours ago. It does not take that long, and he normally texts me when he's home. Maybe he's helping his dad. And then it was like 3 hours, and I was like,
Oh, you didn't know when he got into that accident?
no.
Oh shit!
The first one, no. And then I've told Jake all the time, and I've told his mom too. I was like, I will forever be bitter about this, because I texted him like multiple times, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then so I texted his mom, and I was like, I don't want to come off as like crazy, but where's your kid? Like, what's going on? I was like, because normally, like, if he was doing something, or if he was like helping his dad, or something like that, he would text
Check
me.
in.
He would just be like, hey, I gotta go, I'm not ignoring you, or I'm not dead somewhere, like I gotta do this, so I gotta go, I'll text you when I'm done. And I'd be like, okay, cool. But that was like always what happened, but that didn't happen. And I was like, this is strange. So I texted his mom, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, where's your kid? Like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm starting to freak out. And she's like, he's fine, he'll text you in a little bit. Lied to my face.
Oh, she knew.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So, but I completely get, because they're a like, probably comprehensible to you, a weird person, incomprehensibly calm family.
Oh.
And so,
But flown out, that's not like, oh, he just, got a little banged
he hadn't
up.
been flown out at that point. They were still in the local hospital. But so that happened, and he had been in an accident, but they didn't like understand or know at that point like how bad it was, or like how bad the kids were. And so she's like, he's fine, I'll text you in a little bit, because she thought, because there were 3 other people in the car, and 2 of them were his twin brothers, and they were able to like walk out of the hospital like that day. He was the one that was like really severely injured, so she thought that he was probably just going to follow along, I think, with the other kids, and that he was going to be able to walk out. He was going to be groggy, have a concussion, but he was going to be fine, which he was. But then I was like, okay, cause I was just concerned, cause he was driving back from practice, and he didn't like text me back, and like that's just not, like, we had been together for a while at that point, and I was like, that's not like him at all. I was like, I just want to make sure that everything's okay, but like, thanks for getting back to me. And she was like, oh, they've been in a car accident. And I was like,
Well, thanks for the heads up.
cool. Where the fuck are you? And then she was like, don't come. Like, there was a lot. And at first I was like, don't come. Excuse me. What do you think this is? But I get it now in hindsight, but in the moment I was so upset. But I was like, I am so much more calm than I used to be, because that family has really mellowed me out. But it would have been a shit show if I had shown up. Like, I would have, it would have been terrible. So I'm glad that I didn't go, because it would have been awful for everybody involved. And so she didn't tell me like where they were at. I don't remember. I don't think so. And so I was just like waiting. And then she's like, he's getting flown out to Santa Rosa. And I was like, okay, cool. This is awesome. But he had like a broken wrist, and he had a severe concussion. Like, I couldn't talk to him for like 5 days. because he wasn't allowed to like look at his phone or anything like that because he had such a bad concussion. And then he came back here and he was on like severe bed rest and everything like that for a long time. So he was all kinds of messed up.
Oh shit.
But he thinks it's funny as shit now because he like doesn't remember any of it because he doesn't remember, you know, because as soon as they made Impact, like he was out.
Yeah.
And then he was on drugs for like
Damn.
the longest time after, so he doesn't remember like anything. He's like, oh yeah, I got these like scars. He's got like a huge scar on his wrist and like all over one of his hands and stuff. He's got like.
Did somebody like broadside him or?
No, it was a single car incident.
Oh, it was just him.
Yeah, it was just their car.
Did they crash into?
They were going towards Blue Lake, and so I think it's S6 exit. I think is what it's called. One of the exits, like before you get to like the actual Blue Lake exit, that they had passed one of the exits, and then you know how, so like there's an exit here, but then there's a sign for like the next exit. Like the next exit, it's like a quarter mile or whatever. They fishtailed like out of nowhere. I don't know that we even really like know exactly what happened, but like he wasn't speeding, he wasn't texting and driving, he hadn't been drinking, like he had his brothers in the car, so if there was going to be any reckless driving, it would have been while he was alone. But he's not a reckless driver in the first place. But they fishtailed, according to the one kid that remembers it, and just lost control, went off the embankment, and took out that sign, went off the embankment, rolled this Suburban like 3 times down this hillside, and then landed on their tires. They had to use like the jaws of life and everything to get him out, and all kinds of crazy shit. So Jake and one of his brothers were passed out in the front seats, and then the 2 other kids, one of the brothers and their friend, were in the back seats, and they were conscious, and so they hopped out of the windows and like called 911 and everything like that and called everybody.
Whoa.
But so yeah, I don't know how I would have a hard time.
And everybody else just walked away from it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's crazy.
Pretty much. And then yeah, he had like I don't know what you call it, but like it was, his wrist was like out, like his bone was out and like down to the side or whatever, so they had to like pop it back in and everything. But I don't know, he thinks it's funnier than shit now. He's like, oh yeah, what a good time. And I'm like, fuck you. That was awful.
So me and Jake are different because I would have been like, not a great experience, you know?
Yeah,
could have done without.
No, yeah, he thinks it's funnier than shit. And he's like, yeah, well, he's like, yeah, I don't know. And the worst thing, well, not the worst thing, but an extra shitty thing on top of it was it happened on March 31st. And so then I went to school the next day on April 1st, on April Fool's Day.
Oh.
And Jake's mom is a teacher at Arcata High, or was at that time, was a teacher at Arcata High, and all of the boys went to Arcata High. And so they decided to put it in the bulletin that the Roan family had been in a car accident and wouldn't be there for a while. And I didn't know it was going to be in the bulletin. None of us did. And so I'm sitting in class trying to just like keep it together because I was freaking out.
You knew at this point.
I knew that he had been in the accident. The whole night previous, I had been talking to his mom and everything like that. But then I get to school the next morning, like, prepared to just tell, like, only my friends about it and, like, not want to talk about it. I just wanted to do school. And then in the bulletin, I remember my teacher first period read it, and she turns to me and she goes, "Is this a fucking joke?" And I was like, "No!" And, like, broke down. Everybody's like, "Why are you here?" I was like, "I don't know." It's like, I don't want to be here. So everybody was very, very nice to me for a while at school. Like, all of my teachers didn't care if I was like on my phone, because I was like, I'm getting updates from his mom like hourly. And so, but all the teachers were like, okay, just like tell me what you know, like when you know it, because everybody was freaked out for it. So that was fun.
Oh shit.
But yeah, I don't know how he got back in the car, like how he started driving. Like as soon as he was able to, he was driving. Like he never, at least
probably
that I
just
know
because
of.
he didn't remember it. That was probably the best thing.
Yeah, probably the best thing for him. But as far as I know, he didn't have any like panic issues, or I don't know, or like have to pull off on the side of the road, you know, have like a, you know, throw up or whatever, which I probably would have done. But
damn.
But I overreact.
Really, I didn't get
see,
that. I didn't get that from you. You seem very level-headed. Yeah,
I am usually level-headed.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
With a few things, not so much.
Not needles.
Not needles.
Anything other than needles.
That's my one thing that'll get me. But everything else is pretty good.
Damn.
But yeah, fun stuff.
Okay.
That's what you missed.
That I'm glad.
When
I'm
we
glad
were
I
in
got
high
the little
school.
update.
That's what you missed when we were in high school.
Little bit of excitement.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was really cool. All kinds of fun stuff.
All right. Well,
High school.
we just did. We did like a solid 2 hours. We gotta wrap this up. I
That's
gotta
what
go try to squeeze in a workout here
We
before they
always
close.
do every time I'm here.
Anything you want, which is great. Those are my favorite conversations when it just you breeze through it.
Sorry
Some of
about
them,
that.
no, that's good. That's good. I always judge it by, okay, did it feel like time flew by, or did it feel like we gotta wrap this shit up?
Yeah.
This ain't it. This is not
This
it.
is not it. It's not going well.
This was not that. I was like, oh shit. Do you have anything you want to plug?
No, I would say check out the Confronting OJ and those
Yeah,
podcasts.
I'm
and
definitely
stuff.
gonna look
They're
into
really,
that.
really interesting if you like that kind of stuff.
I
It's
heard
not
they
for
did
everybody.
TV. There was like a TV series, right, with like David
Yeah,
Schwimmer. I gotta look into that too.
OJ Simpson and the People.
Oh,
Simpson
versus the people. Yeah, I think. Okay.
Yeah, that was really.
Did you see that?
Good. I did watch that when I think it came out when I was like a freshman in college.
Better
so I
than the
haven't seen it
podcast?
for a while. I haven't seen it for a while. It's been like 5 years at this point.
Probably more. The podcast is probably more fact based.
Yeah, and it's more, and it's interesting, and it was really good because it comes from like a totally different side, coming from like the victim's family member rather than like
someone
romanticizing
so close,
it, for the media or anything like that.
I gotta check that out. I
it's
started
really good.
watching the QAnon. There's a QAnon docuseries
Is
on
there?
HBO. Yeah.
Oh.
It's a little slow. I'm trying to get through it. I fell asleep during the first episode, so I have to rewatch.
Yeah.
I'm only 1 episode in. I caught bits and pieces, but I fell asleep because it's like, okay, this is a little.
Interesting.
I think it could be good.
Yeah.
I don't
I'll have to
know.
look at it.
It might be a little drag.
I'm interested, yeah, because I want to know more.
That's
about
my
it.
thing. Like, I'm willing to suffer through it just to get there's a lot of information.
Yeah.
I just it's not the best documentary that I've
Right.
seen. But I want the information.
They're
from it,
hit
so
and
I'm
miss.
so I'm gonna try to get through it.
But that's what I would say, that if you're into that kind of thing, that they're really interesting
Okay.
and they're free. And if you got nothing else to do, might as well. It's
Damn.
easier than reading.
That's true. I started listening to an audiobook. This is the first audiobook I've done. It's on a book by Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life, because that book was really dense too, and I was like, I need someone to read this to me, because I'm not gonna.
Right, it's not gonna work for me.
I'm not gonna get through this book.
It's
I
not
like
gonna
made
happen.
it 2 chapters in and was okay. This is not happening.
not
How are we
happening
gonna get
for
through
me.
this? So audiobooks.
That's funny. Yeah, I have listened to one audiobook. I have another one that I'm planning on listening to. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. But
We're gonna see it. I don't know if I like reading. I like having
yeah,
that
yeah, I
tactile
like
feedback.
the tactile aspect.
So
of
I'm
it,
gonna
I
see,
agree.
and I'm worried. I'm a little worried that I'm not gonna get as much out of it without read. Like, I feel like there's something different when you're reading it and you're actually like,
Yeah, absorbing it with your eyes.
as opposed to just listening and doing other things. when
Yeah,
you're-
that's why when I did listen to the audiobook the one that I did do, I listened to it when I was going to and from Chico. So I was like driving, and so I was absorbing it a little bit more than if I listen to podcasts and do like chores. And
Yeah.
I'm not really processing it. But
We'll see. Okay, Michala, you're awesome. That was great. I had a blast. Next time you come on, there may or may not be a needle here waiting for you. We're gonna see if I can find a nurse or somebody to do that. If anybody knows a nurse, have her hit me up.
Or
Yeah.
him.
Okay.
Or him.
Or him. Anybody. I'll take anybody. If you know a dog that can do needles,
Yeah.
I can't. So,
Right?
all right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.